Very disappointing crowd, we've got to say. It's a story in its own right.
It's a free kick.
Ooh, bang.
High tackle.
There goes one.
Hold on. Wait. Nick Reload. Try.
Ball to Jeff, Shane. Give the ball to Jeff. Ball to Jeff.
Hold it up. I'll go down the end zone.
Some guys don't learn, do they?
Why do they bother? I mean, it is going to be a free kick every time. You're at home, you need a win, you get off to a fast start, and then you give up a shot at goal. I mean, before the sirens even sounded.
And it proves nothing. I mean, nothing's going to happen. We all know that. It's just bluff. I'd send my wife out there. There goes Revolt. Kicks and kicks truly. Well, there you go.
And the most important player in the St Kilda side, their captain, is off to a flying start.
Just on top of that, Tim, he had started to find some real form last week. We know he's been low on confidence leading up to last week. He's got a little bit of a roll on, and that's just a present early. He'll be feeling good about his day now, Nick.
Well, young Trengove has done well to mask his IQ.
Well, they've got bright prospects for him if he stays in Adelaide, and I think he will, who knows, but that was a silly start. And the captain gets the fly, so the Saints with a goal. They didn't score a goal in the last quarter last week, St Kilda. In fact, they didn't score anything, and the Port, of course, didn't score a goal either, so it's been a while since either team had kicked a goal. And there was a gift. So Stephen out of the centre to Hartlett. Hartlett's little give was okay. He was in a difficult position. Logan head down and bottom up. He plays like that. Then Trengove over the top of Lynch, and then Salter can't get it out. And I reckon, Tim, we're going to see a fair bit of that today. Not the free kick before the bounce, but the stoppages.
Well, neither side's been particularly good at clearances this year, but we will see a lot of stoppages. Chad Corn's just trying to get to Sam Fisher, so he's going to play that defensive forward-type role on Fisher.
Matthew Primus back on the bench. He's moved back down there. Montagna with a good takeaway and clearance. Well, St Kilda's got just the perfect start. Two of their stars getting goals in the first couple of minutes.
So important to get off to a good start when you go into state. We know the crowd's not massive here in Adelaide today, but you just want to take them out of the equation. And they got their first one. That was a gift before the siren, and that was just terrific work from a stoppage, wasn't it? It went to the outer part of the clearance then. Just a beautifully timed tap across to Montagna. Look at that ruck work there from McAvoy, right on the chest of Montagna, who has been really struggling a little bit this season because of injury. I'm not sure that his knee's 100%, but they're going to try and nurse him to the end of the year.
Lovely finish by Montagna. He's just pushing that ball from right to left.
Nick Del Santo.
Del Santo gets it through. All the important players getting early touches. Complacency could be their biggest enemy. Milne, it was touched off the boot. The umpire called it early. Milne just stayed down like a meerkat. And we've got to bounce about 45 metres out.
Well, Ross Lyon said to Richo, didn't he, prior to the game, that they really wanted to get off to a great start. They wanted to hit into the bodies, and this has just been the perfect start for them.
Well, I would imagine Matty Primus might play that back to his players during the week if, in fact, they lose this game, because they were given a good start, the Saints, against a team they feared getting a good start. Hamish Hartlett, we talked about him playing a lot of football. Hasn't missed a game since round 2, and that's great because he's a very talented youngster. In defence now. He's got the free kick, but unfortunately a teammate kicked the ball upfield, so one would imagine most of the Port players would be covered by now. Revolt enjoying that tackle too, riding him hard into the ground. So Hartlett off his step. And Corns, Chad Corns, rousing reception, belies the crowd. He goes out very wide in front. Lobe knocked away from behind by McAvoy. Loved his game last week. Let's go down to Richo.
Yeah, Dan, we just saw Chad Corns get involved, and he started at half forward, but he has a real negative role on Sam Fisher. We know how much Sam Fisher sets up the Saints from back there.
So a good start for Corns to get an early touch. Stephen been very good over the last sort of 6 weeks. Goddard to Gwilt. Had big numbers again last week. Gwilt now broad bent. Little give down the line to Roden. Was going to go to Corns, decided not to, and that got cut off. Well, luckily gets a free kick.
There's no tackle.
I thought he should have been holding the ball, to be honest. I don't think he got rid of the ball legitimately, and then did get crunched afterwards. But
it was really more of a bump than a tackle.
Yeah.
Move it on.
So Roden going back to Tringove, who better play a good game today because almost feel like he set the scene early. Logan. So Logan in the heart of the centre square now. Port, for the first time in the match, getting some of the ball.
Hartlett pushing up the ground, takes the mark on the wing. This is his strength. Ball in hand. Goes down towards half forward. Bounces off the chest of Stewart. Waiting there and run over as the ball came towards him was Lynch. And now Gamble gets on the end of an errant kick from right centre wing, goes down towards half forward. Revolt comes at the footy and it bounces out of bounds.
Gee, works hard, Revolt, doesn't he? He took off like a hare back towards goal. Chaplin was right with him all the way. Then he did a hook in his lead, came back to the ball, and the kick just wasn't anywhere near as precise as it needed to be.
It's interesting, Tim, that Chaplin's got the job on him because I think everybody thought Tringove would start on him. Folks sort of forced it forward, and then O'Shea, well done though by Raf Clark, and then O'Shea out of play. So Chaplin lining up on Revolt for the moment. Tringove had Lynch early. Salter had Gamble. There's O'Shea. It's been good, O'Shea. 52 in the draft. He's only missed 2 games. He was injured in both of those. He's been the surprise packet at the club this year. Roden almost from the clearance. Jones, though, got it from Polo. Forward, Hartlett. And then the quick kick around the body. And Broadbent's got it at half-back.
Goes inside. Dangerous kick. Banner hung on. Jacobs, the man, sending it forward from half-back. Bruce telling me they like him. Ball comes out wide. Gray's got it. Gray goes in short. Corns barely to 15. But he's the home favourite.
Well, he's going to get a lot of the ball because, as Richo mentioned before, he's playing a defensive role in Sam Fisher. Sam Fisher's staying back in defence, and then Corns is going to come up and play that intermediate type role and just present himself. So you expect him to get a lot of touches.
Gray back to Kane Corns. Up the top to Thomas. Laborious build-up. They'll go back here, will they? Corns got it from Thomas all the way back to Chaplin. Logan is on wide. Goes to him now. With there are very few Port players up ahead on that side of the ground. I think he may be forced to come back across the ground. Thomas. Now Thomas goes looking for Cassisi. Cassisi did well, made himself available, tackled front on by Gilbert. What was that for? Had prior opportunity apparently. There goes the kick from Gilbert, knocked across the boundary line by Banner.
It's untidy play, but St Kilda are moving all their numbers with the flow of play. And that's why it's so difficult for Port Adelaide to find their way through the maze of players. And this wind is going to make it that much trickier.
See Banner there, Tim. He's been in the best 3 for the Magpies the last 6 weeks in the local competition. Sort of knocked the door down to get back in today. Jones has kicked forward. Jacobs at the back of Gamble. Cassisi, that's a clever handball, and then a quick release from Pearce was good to Logan, to Roden. Roden's careful kick, and Ebert at centre wing. What an enigma Ebert is. I mean, over 50 goals in that 07 grand final season. He's had a lot of footy at the Magpies this year as well in the local comp. He loads up. He's a neat kick normally. A long ball in. Well, Shaw's had not 1 but 3 to beat there. And then Gwilt back to Ray. Just no forward pressure from Port at the moment. And then Gwilt across the ground. Look at the wind, hold it up. Corns can make a contest, but Fisher did really well. Kept his eye on it and took the mark.
If they're going to kick that long kick like we just saw then to Schultz 3-on-1, all the Port Adelaide players have to move up the ground really quickly. Otherwise, they're giving St Kilda too much of a buffer to actually run the ball back at them.
Schneider in the back pocket then, started on the bench, quickly into the action. Drives it short of the wing. McAvoy and Lobie. Lobie did well, should have taken the mark though. Trumped his own ball. It spills behind the pack. Taken away by Polo. Slips it across to Goddard. Goddard to half forward. Hands in the back, no free kick. Arriving quickly, Logan. Errant hand pass. O'Shea couldn't control it. It goes out of bounds.
Richo, is it started to rain yet?
Yeah, it has, Tim. It's really blowing across the ground. A lot of breeze. It's going all over the place. It's hard to know which end it's favouring. I don't think the rain's favouring anyone.
So Roden from the clearance, but cut off by Ray. Well, we saw earlier both Montagna and Revolt were able to kick goals from about the 50, weren't they, at the right-hand side. So it's a fluky breeze. You reckon it's across the ground and possibly slightly to the left of screen.
You won't want to get it too deep into this pocket on this near side, though, at the right-hand end on your screen, because it's difficult. That wind's blowing right across the ground. It's going to make it very difficult to score from there.
A lot of discussion in Adelaide about whether they can afford a roof at the new ground. It's not going to happen, but oh boy, on a day like today, Goddard's kick high to about 25 metres. Hartnett had to fish for it a bit. Schneider will be dangerous.
Oh.
Gee, that looked a free kick over the top of Schneider. Corns got down low. Chaplin got involved, and then Hartnett puts a tackle on and the ball up. Go and find us an extra 100 mil, Dan, and we'll put the roof over the top.
It's amazing how things have turned around over here, Bruce.
Gee, Schneider was a bit unlucky.
Wasn't it? To an outsider, things were going so well with South Australian football, but everything I read, certainly, including today in the Advertiser, Craig McDermott, or rather Chris McDermott, writing a piece in there. Good piece too, but interesting. The worm has turned, at least for the present, but quite often these things are secular. There's the bounce, one down by Stewart. Out of there by Jacobs. High ball, floats it towards right half back. Corns, who started pretty well, battles there with Fisher. Fisher over the top of Jacobs, or rather Corns. And there's going to be a free kick, and it's against Fisher. So a win for Corns one-on-one. Terrific result.
That's a lottery, that decision, though, isn't it?
But like the lottery itself, Tim, if you win it, you take it. It goes up towards the centre wing. Ebert slips a hand pass, too slick. The man cruising past there, Gray, and the ball goes out of bounds. Ebert started on the bench like Schneider. We mentioned that moments ago. Former North Melbourne coach and now chief assistant here. Dean Laidley looks on, former West Perth player.
Top of the table, West Perth, eh? Stewart down low. And then Roden tried to get through. And here's Jacobs. So taken 16 in the draft last year. Would have played round one, but had glandular fever. And they picked him so high because he's an elite kick, and he, ironically, has been turning it over a bit. Gwilt's free kick, surely.
Advantage.
No great advantage for the Saints here, but Goddard worked it out okay. Dawson off a step, gets some distance. Milne did really well there against Jacobs. Just out-positioned him and then kept it down low to a good spot to Ray. Now Ray takes his time and then squeezes it back to a contest. Lynch got down low, high tackle, free kick.
Richo, what have you got for us?
Yeah, Port Adelaide yet to have an inside 50, and it was a real problem for them last week up in Brisbane in that last quarter. Just couldn't get the ball in there. Just not enough overlap run. Too many uncontested marks and kicks at the moment. Need to try and generate some run and some overlap to get it inside 50. Schultz kicked 7 last week. He just needs opportunities.
That's a good point from Richo too, because just watching the game in the early parts, they're not nearly working as hard from end to end as what St Kilda are.
So it's consecutive games for the first time in his very brief career, Lynch. And that's Shank. It's not going to be an easy day to kick goals, but that was a poor kick on any sort of a day. So 13-0. Remember, the Port didn't get a goal in that last quarter against Brisbane last week. I think they led by 20 points deep into the third quarter.
Yeah, disappointing loss, wasn't it? There's Salter to bring it in. Normally a long kick, and this one no exception. Outside the defensive 50, Ebert got a hand to it, falls behind to Ray, gave it to Del Santo, whips a hand pass across towards the Timid and Jones. Jones, Montagna now. Montagna, that's a dangerous ball about 20 metres out. Revolt tried the one-hander, couldn't complete the mark. Del Santo over the top. Stephen in the pocket, lines up. Well, that tells you something about the breeze. That never had a chance. As they say in golf, he started it completely on the wrong line.
That's almost impossible to kick it from there, Dennis.
Yeah, well, he had to give away the right-hand goalpost, didn't he? I'm not sure what he was thinking.
This is more on an attacking side of the ground where they are now, though, St Kilda. So they've ended up in an okay position.
Lobie against McAvoy, and then Cassisi down low gets a free.
John Cassisi.
That pocket that he kicked from is the Bermuda Triangle here on a good day. So it will be shark-infested here today, that is for sure. Brogan apparently is going to go to Darwin and play next Saturday night against Melbourne. So Lobie will want to play well here today. He's got a big task against an informed young player in McAvoy, like him. Boundary throw in. Saw Dean Bailey before the match, Tim, I know you did, who is here.
Interested on looking, yes.
Yeah, Melbourne playing Port in Darwin. So he's here with Josh Marnie, ex-Port Adelaide player. Magpie before that. So Lobie front spot. Did all right against the Lions last week, Lobie. And then he's caught up. He actually debuted against the Saints when they beat St Kilda in round 5 last year.
See on screen there, Dempster just trying to get to Pearce, so he's going to run with him throughout the afternoon. Kane Corns is picking up Peake, who is really getting some really smart numbers for the Saints this year.
Saints now inside their 50. Bounces out of bounds. They're up by 13. They've got the good start.
Averaging 22 over the last 4 weeks, Peake. So probably the best form almost that he's shown at St Kilda. 17 of those are uncontested. So he's a player that works on the outside, becomes one of their runners.
McAvoy, Lobie, cast in the role of a rover there. Comes wide of the pack. Del Santo upended. Socket off the ground. A lot of football will be played on that side of the ground too, because the breeze is going over there. Dempster, their stopper. So Lobie and McAvoy. Generally, McAvoy has been the master so far. Got on the right side there. The breeze just pushing it his way, but knocked it directly to Roden, who's away. Roden, nobody inside the forward 50. Needs to hold it up or have someone come to him. The latter. Ebert's got it. Lays it off. Well, that was a terrible hand pass. Kasisi back to Gray. Gray could kick this nevertheless. He's a sharpshooter, Gray. It's working back. He's got the goal. Any other player misses.
Him every now and then you've got to have a player that takes them on, and Roden, he does it.
Roden does, and that's the thing about the way that he plays, because he breaks from a contested or congested situation, goes into clear sky, blue sky, and then breaks the play up. I mean, they got a little bit untidy, but that bloke on screen, Gray, is an excellent finisher. Well, here's the break from Roden from the stoppage, and that first kick is a beauty. That's the one that you'll need to make. This handball doesn't hit its target, but because they had the numbers there, the overlap here from Gray, and that's a great finish, Richo.
Yeah, it is, and that's what Dave Roden can do. He can break open a line. He's an 80-metre player, and they just need to get the ball into his hands. Third game back from his knee. Should be starting to find a little bit of touch now.
He kicked, I think it was 6 for Nord in the match before he came back and played for Port. So we saw him get injured, didn't we, against Hawthorn on the Friday night when he did his medial. So terrific finish for Gray now. Schneider out of the centre, out wide to half forward. Goddard on a long searching lead here. Goes back to Dempster, or Polo rather. That was Dempster, then back into Schneider again from Goddard. Back it goes, and then Goddard with a low kick to centre half forward. Jacobs a bit slow to go there. Tringove did well to Logan, to Kasisi. Now Kane Corns back over the top. Chaplin's a left footer, so he released him on the good side for him. And Logan, who's a real workhorse, gets the ball at half back and down the line finds Shaw. So a good moment or two for Port Adelaide.
Trail by 7 points at the moment in the gloom. Very overcast day. Short one. Boak.
Gee, they've given the young kid O'Shea a big assignment too. He's running with Brendan Goddard.
Boak hugs the boundary line. Oh, terrific Lobie.
Broadbent's on. Too slow.
Oh! Jones was on too. Almost got Boak, who then proceeds to kick it over Roden's head. Marked by Dawson. Gilbert across the ground into the path of Montagna. Looking down the field, Revolt is just delaying. He doesn't want to get too close to the boundary. Montagna pops it over the top. Man between Revolt and the kicker. Del Santo is marked. And now Revolt has halted his move out there at left half forward. Polo. And Polo will kick it down towards the 50, one expects. Well, he goes out wide to Revolt. Now, that is very much the defensive side of the ground. Revolt's going to get a free kick. With the breeze going out there, that's probably not the spot you want to go to. But, of course, it's your main man. He's out there calling for the footy.
Jacobs just hanging on. Port fans didn't like it. Montagna from Revolt. They're the two goal kickers. Polo. So Polo now faced with a bit of a problem. Gray's pickup was terrific. Polo gets down low again and gets the handball that time to Graham. to Gilbert, back to Gwilt. Now Gwilt, normally a pretty good kick, and that is a good long ball looking for Peake. Oh, lovely mark by Roden. He's got more than one trick up his sleeve, hasn't he? Now Kasisi. He is a rare bird, Roden. He is so good to watch. Tringo to Corns. Every now and then, though, he can perhaps bite more off the cake than he really needs to.
Still, he makes it exciting. Jacobs in front. He's going to get a free kick. Advantage is paid. Thomas is away. One bounce. Carries the ball up towards the wing. Coming across on the angle. Dawson takes the mark. It was intended for Schultz. And that was intended for Clark, who goes back. And that was intended for Gwilt. Pretty sloppy football, but eventually they sorted out. Gwilt miscues as well. But Del Santo's got a paddock. Running forward is Dempster. He'll get it now. Dempster close to the boundary line. Needs to bring it back towards the middle. Well, sort of splits the difference. It wanders inside the 50. Plenty of Port players around the footy. Diving in there was Logan. Well done by Hartlett. Chaplin feeds it back. Kane Corns. Trengo. They worked it pretty well.
They have, Dennis. In fact, the last couple of times St Kilda have gone forward, they've been really good with their organisation and their skill.
Trengove risks all. This is the scoring side of the ground with the breeze at your back. Lynch taken down. Tries to feed it forward. Ray a half chance. Sliding in there and getting the ball across the boundary line. Port do pretty well through Kane Corns.
Holding up pretty well at the moment, the Power, aren't they?
I think they are, yeah. I think they're doing really well.
So St Kilda, 50 from goal. Tringove was the third man out, but he missed the lot. Del Santo to Ray. Then Ray wobbles in, Revolt and Gamble. Gamble well played, and Mill will kick a goal. He does.
Thank you.
Well, if there's any antagonism to be done, Stephen Milne's generally right in the middle of it all. He is a clever little player, though, isn't he? Particularly around stoppages. He's a strong body player, got a lot of strength through his core. Again, that the 2 of their 3 goals now have been set up from half forward from stoppages, St Kilda. So that's an area of the game that has let them down this year. Ross Lyon be really happy with that.
Both sides very bad in that area. At the foot of the table, getting the ball away from bounces and throw-ins. After it goes Thomas in the back against Montagna. Well, he said hi. Still a free kick to Port. Thomas swings it out wide. Broadbent coming across his Banner. Bearing down his Polo. Banner just slides across the line with the footy. Richo?
Yeah, there's a heap going on between Chad Corns and Sam Fisher. The emergency umpire's been out there twice. Umpire McBurney was over there. Really getting into Sammy is Chad. He's pretty keen to make his mark today.
Yes, so Chad is fired up, no question about that. Interesting situation because he's got the mentality of a great player. He's still barking out when he's doing his job, actually. He's complaining to the emergency umpire, but he's out there to upset the other bloke. Takes a bit of getting used to that, the mindset of a good player. He's thinking about, well, I'm doing this, but my heart's not in it. I want to get the footy. Tossed in. Behind a chance for Polo. That's in the back. No free kick. Well played by Jones. Gives it off. Milne causing a few headaches. Goes deep towards the pocket. Going back with a flight of it down there. Salter just maybe getting a touch and helping it on its way. Chad Corns and Sam Fisher.
Doing a job, Chad Corns, Dennis. He's just had the one touch so far, Sam Fisher.
And probably it's fair to say Sam Fisher is the latter day Chad Corns.
Certainly can do a lot, Sam, and that's what Chad made his mark as a forward who went back and then played in the midfield, and Fisher's got that ability to rove around the ground too, hasn't he?
Yeah, running, sort of marking halfback.
And you look at them there and they're pretty well matched up, aren't they, physically? So a good matchup. Both all Australians, high quality footballers at different stages of their careers. Hartlett's quick kickers are going to go out of play. No, not on the fall at least.
I think it's a great thing to do, though, to give Chad Corns a job like that. You know, he's coming back into the game. He's only played 5 games this year. Just to give him an assignment and say, OK, this is what you have to do. You have to beat this bloke. You have to make sure that you take him out of the game, and when you get the opportunity, present yourself as well.
He's had a few touches early. Good clearance there by Stephen. Gets it to Montagna. Del Santo just had to get up too high. Pearce pushed him over. Montagna to clean up. Pushed off the ball. Tringo terrific there. Gets the ball back to O'Shea. Oh, that's a dangerous kick. Revolt. Back he goes. Stevie Milne high, but not so handsome this time. A real contest. The captain comes through. He's manhandled left, right and centre. Chaplin Banner can't hold it. And the ball comes off ground for a boundary throw in.
That would have been a tough mark for Banner too. Crowd really groaning with that attempt, but it came quickly and it was behind him. And it would be pretty greasy.
Inside 50s, 1 Port Adelaide, 12 St Kilda.
So the one was a goal.
That's it.
Cassisi.
Their efficiency rate's amazing.
That's like nit-natin to his mark. Just the one for the day, but memorable. Boundary throw in.
See who Jones is going to here. In fact, Kane Corns is going to.
He wants Boat. He's trying to get to Boat too.
Lobie in front. McAvoy wins it down. Cassisi. Great to see him back. Scrambles a kick, gains about 25 metres. It goes out of bounds again. So 19 plays 6. Under 4 minutes till quarter time. Cassisi comes off. Jacobs comes on. And now Thomas back on the ground, replacing Stewart. Goddard, meantime, feeds it towards half forward. Onto the ball is Peake, and Peake hits Revolt on the chest. That was wonderful. 2 weak teams when it comes to stoppages, and so far the Saints doing far better. I think they're absolute last in clearances from stoppages in the competition. Porter 16. So it's hardly an edge.
Just saw that stoppage again. It was Goddard that got the ball out, but it was O'Shea just got lost in the traffic then, and not a strong enough body play to actually go with Goddard. Goddard's paying him no respect whatsoever the way that he's being matched up.
He's dissing him. Revolt kicks truly. He's got 2 from about the same spot. The first was a gift.
He just got off to the perfect start, didn't he, Nick Revolt?
Yeah.
And Peake, who I mentioned before, his numbers have been excellent and can run from stoppages. He can overlap. He's an outside player, but that's no great criticism of him, but he's a very good outside player, and he has hit a real purple patch in his career. And Nick Revolt, as we mentioned, just got that gift before the siren was even sounded, and that's got to do wonders for his confidence. Here's back to the stoppage again. Just watch, there's O'Shea just at the top, the right-hand corner. Goddard just pushes off him, moves back to where the ball's going to be directed, and away they go.
And as Tim mentioned, Peake getting a lot of ball and a lot of it outside, and he's sort of in the form he was in late at the Dockers when he had that good patch. Corns taps it forward after Port won the clearance. Fisher, Corns' opponent, getting down low. Port gets some numbers around there. Roden, who's been good in the opening term, gets another free kick.
Playing stopped. Playing stopped.
Good sign for St Kilda too. Del Santo's had 8, Goddard's had 8, and Montagna's had 7. So their key playmakers have been right in this game.
Roden getting a fair bit of it for Port as well. So this is number 5 for him. Kicks the ball to full forward. Gray pushed out by Goddard. And then Lynch around the body. Gamble has to search for it. He gets it now. Over the top. Good hard running from Schneider. Now they can try. Well, he missed the target in Stephen. Hartler worked it out really well, I thought. And then, the kick to Salt. It was a half volley in the end. And Del Santo happy to put the ball over the line, right in front of Matthew Richardson.
Yeah, well, it's on here too, Bruce.
Be careful, Richard.
There we go. I'm nearly involved here. Goddard and Daniel Pearce. It's two in a row though from last night as well.
You be careful, Richard.
Got a bit excited there. Got a bit of testosterone flowing through him.
Steady, Richard.
Was it adrenaline? I might have knocked that up.
I saw what you had for lunch, so you well and truly carbo-loaded yourself.
I did. I don't know. I'm nothing about.
So here's Pearce, 55 metres out, aided by a 50-metre penalty. Take a good kick from here, just setting it up very close to the boundary. And Corns is winding back the clock at the moment. He's gone out there to upset Sam Fisher. He's doing a lot more than that. He's putting his stamp on this first term, and they need a goal here. He's got oodles of experience. We expect him to run around. He does, and he misses. Behind. Now, it's 25-7, but you've got to say the end at which the Saints are going isn't the scoring end. That breeze is going across the ground, so don't be sort of alarmed by that, St Kilda fans. You're dominating the game.
Fans are right in this game.
So a bit of fire late in the quarter, and I think Port fans will be pleased that Pearce was right in it. So Hartlett down low. Well, he's probably a bit lucky, but he got down low. He's a good kick normally, Hartlett. Does he use the ball well here? Well, it's a bit off the side. He gives even half a chance. Well played, Fisher, to get back. Gray can think his way through it. He's a chance. Misses. He's a clever player.
Not sure he's totally popular, though, is he?
Who's that?
Gray, with his mates sometimes. I noticed he kicked a goal last week, and the congratulations weren't exactly spontaneous. He had men on back in the middle that time, chose to go it alone. He's a good enough player to get free, that's the thing, and obviously he likes his ability. Gwilt up towards the wing, and the mark is taken out there by Lynch. Throws it over the top nicely. Well, hand past it. Taken by Peake. Peake runs the outer wing, then goes to Revolt, gets it back, goes down towards full forward. Dangerous situation here. It's virtually Gamble's to mess up. He swings it back and really never gave it a chance. He's gone across the goal line down there between the behind post and goal post, only about 5 metres from himself.
Gee, didn't we see a good example of why they recruited Peake then? His ability to run and carry is a great little give by Revolt, by the way.
It was only a lend, wasn't it, from Peake? He was getting it straight back every time.
Well, he might have been rid of the Greys about it. That's a good mark, Stewart. There's about one of those a match, Daniel Stewart, at the moment. Josh Franco coaches him at North Adelaide, and he wrote an article about a month ago to say that he's got to play AFL. I don't want him back at North Adelaide, he said. He's too good. Well, that's a good mark. Well, interesting first quarter, actually. It started with an unusual situation, a goal to Revolt before the ball was bounced. Corns has had an influence. Port Adelaide trail by 3 goals. The Saints lead at 26-8 on Sunday football.
Saints by 18 points, second term on Sunday football from Amy Stadium in Adelaide. The breeze pushing across the ground. You could do with an early goal, Port. Lobe sends it back towards Cassisi, immediately claimed by Stephen, taken down, and the umpire will do the business again. Dom Cassisi missed a lot of football this season, playing only his 6th game. A real battler, inside player, well done. Laid down that time to Schneider. The kick goes bouncing out towards the outer side. Hartlett gets the arm free, did nicely, gave it to Pearce. Looping hand pass over the top. O'Shea runs around the outer side. Needed to align himself. He took a while in doing that. And the man who got the ball down at the last bounce gets back quickly. McAvoy to Gwilt. Runs across the face of goal. Kane Corns in best position. Well played, though, by Peake. Had the right instinct. Got it down behind to Fisher. Gets a hand pass away. Schneider. Now Gamble. Gamble wants some movement towards him, but the kick favours the defender going back. It wasn't a mark. It was high contact against Lynch, paid to Cassisi.
Stood his ground as you knew he would. He's a brave player, Cassisi. Had the ankle injury, as Dennis said, was out for a good stretch this season. Now, he's asked Gray a big task there, and Clark was able to pick him off, and then with Gamble, they get it away. Peake to Jones, on the wrong side for him, gets to Graham, back to Peake, who's been a real weapon here, and out wide, suddenly it opens up to Stephen. Now Stephen with a little one forward, and Revolt on the lead. Nobody takes as many marks in the competition than Big Nick running towards the footy.
And didn't they work that beautifully after they turned the ball over? The first kick from Port Adelaide was a really poor one to the wing position. It was really a kick in hope, a 50-50 contest. And then as soon as that happened, you've seen all the St Kilda players just streaming to that space, and a great finish there by Stephen.
Gee, you'd love a bag, Nick Revolt, wouldn't you? You'd like to kick 5, 6 or 7 in a match this season. That one just off the side a bit and missing. Not going to be easy to kick goals from set shots. We saw in Revolt kick a couple early. So 27-8. Richo, what do you got for us down there on the boundary?
Just in that first quarter, just highlights the ruck battle. Lobe and McAvoy. Never been more important, I don't think, in the AFL to have a good ruckman in the centre bounces. You get it forward into your forward line now and hold it in with the forward press. It's crucial that your ruckman can get hands on it in the middle.
Kick outside the defensive 50. Punch back inside. Well, almost by Gilbert. Taken across the line by Montagna.
Former Port Adelaide player.
Yeah, important player here, Adam Kingsley.
One of best and fairest. Tossed in. Lobe may have got it down. Jacob Sock is at about 10 metres. Taken by O'Shea. Gives it across to Kane Corns. Up and under. Floats towards the wing. Ebert propping in front. Earned the free kick. Advantage is paid.
Hadn't heard the whistle back here. Hadn't heard the whistle. Holding on in the marking contest.
Hadn't heard the whistle.
He was ready to play on anyway.
You'd be happy with that, wouldn't you? Yeah. Ebert's got the ball out against the boundary line. Umpire McBurney, terrific umpire. This ball goes out of bounds. And you don't die wondering as far as umpire McBurney is concerned. His explanations are expansive. There's Dean Brogan, a warrior who said he's quitting at the end of the season. He's been a fine player for them. And the longer he's played AFL football, the better he's gotten, the more appreciated he's been.
That's for sure, Dennis. I mean, uniquely having won that NBL title as well as a AFL title. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
He was a warrior, wasn't he?
Yeah. He will.
Not a warrior, a warrior.
Yeah. I think he's going to play in Darwin next week, so he'll be back. He's had a tendonitis of the Achilles and a problem with his hammy. But
two Port Adelaide players. Both you guys have got the footy. You've got to release it out.
Well, there's the explanation. Peake becoming an important player in this match. As Tim said, he's been averaging about 23 disposals in his last 4 matches. Kicks the ball long. Hartler did really well. Yep. He kept his eye on it. It was a floating ball.
That's got to be 50. Not in the marking contest. You cannot hold on to the player after he's completed the mark.
Mark was complete, Adam, and you're at
Just
your
like the
arm
way he
already,
kept his eye on it there.
Yeah, I like this kid. I mean, I think he's going to be an excellent player. I like what they're doing with it at the moment too. Just take him out of the midfield, put him back across half back. Dennis touched on it early in the game about how good he is at kicking, and he's a good decision maker as well.
So Corns to Logan to Thomas. Now, Thomas burnt the ball a couple of times in the opening term, and that's another poor kick. So his last 3 kicks haven't been good, and cut off by Clark.
Raf Clark deep in his own defensive area then, up from right back pocket, just lobs one close to the boundary. Knocked forward out there by Logan. It's still a live ball. Getting back is Dempster, stolen away by Gray. Slips a hand pass across to O'Shea. O'Shea gives it to Thomas. Shrugs off a would-be tackler, goes to Roden. They're working their way deep into the pocket. Pearce pulls it back. Schultz! He's a spring heel jack, is Schultz.
That's a good kick, though. A good kick from Pearce under pressure, wasn't it?
Yeah, beauty.
I thought he was just going to lay it across his boot and try a boomerang, but he did the high percentage thing. And this bloke, who we know, is in good form after 7 last week.
Yep, 22 for the season. The good thing about that is if you put it up, you know he's not going to get outmarked. He's a very hard man to outmark. He comes in and kicks the goal.
I might be giving Chad Corns too much credit, but he too was in the contest. He had 2 players.
Chad.
Yep.
Yep. I'm not sure that he was just trying to hold his man so Schultz could mark on his shoulders.
A good effort if he was.
He did the right thing, though, didn't he?
Yeah. You think Schultz is going to be better with Corns with him, don't you?
Yeah. Well, they always play better in tandem, don't they?
This is something Jay Schultz has always been able to do. He's always been able to get a good leap and sit. And he's had a pretty good year, re-signed with the club during the week. But Zach Dawson just lost contact on him there, and you can't lose contact with Schultz. If he gets a leap at the ball, he can take those big grabs.
Richo, former teammate, of course, at Richmond. McAvoy doing well, and Gamble. Well, this hurts Port, doesn't it? I mean, McAvoy getting a clearance himself out of the centre and getting a shot at goal on with Gamble. Interesting. Gamble, Tim, I mean, taken 90 in the draft. Polo taken 103 in the draft. Both out there today. I mean, how low can you go in terms of numbers, and yet both getting a game at the moment. So this is what he's there to do, to kick a goal. And he looks like he's done it. That's a good kick. That's a good finish. He needs to do that, and he does.
It's a great answer, though, too, isn't it? Straight away after a goal's been scored at the other end. Port just looking to try and build some momentum. And that's the best way to stall any sort of momentum.
There's the midfield coach.
Nick Del Santo's been really busy this afternoon. 11 possessions already. 7 of those have been contested. So I reckon he's achieving a great balance in the way that he's playing at the moment too. His inside and his outside work has been excellent.
Quite a contrast between kicking a goal at the left end as distinct from the right, which is exposed. Gamble really didn't have to give away the goals moments ago. It only probably moved a couple of metres in flight, whereas at the other end, they can really take off on you. Once again, Kasisi this time is the third man up. Wins it down to Banner. Banner goes down towards half forward. The Breeze gets the footy and runs it out towards the outer side. Ebert out against the boundary line in the finish, trying to keep it in. Floats it towards the pocket. Ray met solidly in the back. He's going to get a free kick. Advantage is paid. Wilt decides to come to the attacking side. Has to kick it into the wind. Dempster waits. Lets it bounce. Is it left half back? Short one to Gamble. Peake is on up the ground, but he wants Raf Clark. They've got the run as a result of Spear Man up the ground. That's Peake. Meantime, Del Santo goes back to Gamble. Terrific by Thomas. And that's a real win as far as Port are concerned, because up ahead, St Kilda players were running into space. Thomas came across and applied a strong tackle.
He is their enforcer, Dennis, isn't he? I mean, he's like a battering ram at times. So little win for the Power. And then Schneider.
They've got a real problem, Power, though, unless they fix this clearance situation, and they were smashed in that first quarter. Inside 50s are 16-7, so they just can't move the ball from these stoppages to give their forwards any sort of opportunity.
So
this is a win, though. Free off the ball.
It's for a hold. It's for a hold.
Seen a bit of spite in the game in that first quarter, right from the beginning, really. That was a fairy floss type spite at the beginning, but with the Goddard one, good stretch by Gray. So Kasisi and Roden, you feel, are their clearance players, aren't they? They're the two guys that are probably going to get hold of a lot. Kasisi, so Port doing it slowly going forward. Back they go. They hate that, the Power fans. The backward trend, and Hartlett, well, half in between, but Boak able to get it. He's the other player, of course, Tim, that can generate from a stoppage. But at the moment, he's been pretty well held. And that's not a good kick by Boak. That's an awful kick.
He's still a young midfielder, though. They're asking a lot of a young midfielder.
Let's go down to Richo.
Matt, how are you seeing the contest out there?
Yeah, look, it's been pretty one-sided at the moment. They're on top of us, contested ball, so putting in a huge effort now to try and level the stoppages.
And what's your job at the moment?
Just midfield on Del, a little bit of Del Santo. He's on and off a little bit, so Rue and I are sharing the job at the moment.
Thanks, Matt.
Well, if you've got a flat tyre right now, he'd be handy. Goddard goes down towards right half forward. The mark is taken by Schneider, just drops it over the top, close to the boundary line. Peake.
Here, go through.
So Peake, there's Matt Thomas. Interchanged and Richo onto him.
I feel sorry for him when I grab him like that. He can hardly breathe, and I'm trying to ask him questions.
Well, Richo, it's all about you. Don't worry about that. Thomas sets it up, or rather Peake sets it up towards full forward. McAvoy spilt it. That should have been manna from heaven. McAvoy, no one went with him. Oh, big fella.
Just a hand in there from Kasisi's forward.
Can't blame that, though, surely. Big boy McAvoy should have grabbed it. He should have been kicking a goal about now. Milne, well, misses everything. Trengo, Boak, goes very wide. Tracking it back out there is Ray. Man on towards the middle. Decides not to go to Clark. He goes all the way back. Taken by Gilbert. Jams it across field to Gwilt. Don't mind the ball in his hands, obviously, St Kilda. Long kick down towards the pocket. Loose at the back, Gamble. Kept it alive, but to the advantage initially of Salter, who's thrown across the line by Jones. Boundary throw-in.
Just the second game this year for Nick Salter. So Stewart just won the tap. Cassisi got a high tackle, free kick.
Free kick.
Now this is where they need to spread and spread really quickly to build something up from deep in their own back half. St Kilda push up, all the numbers come up, so I mean the pressure's on and they're just going to work their way through this.
So they've taken a tiny step here, Tim. In fact, a tiny step backwards now.
Yeah. Well, this kick, if it goes to the pocket though, that's exactly where St Kilda want to hem them in.
So Salter short. Kane Corns haven't really gained a metre yet, have they? They're about exactly where they were in terms of distance from goal. So Kane Corns then kicks to a contest to his brother Chad, nearly. And then Lobie does the roving. Good give, actually, by Lobie to O'Shea. O'Shea, now they're completely outnumbered here, and Dawson picked it off. And then Gwilt, that one not quite getting to the target. Pearce has to hang on hard here. Secured it to break. And then Polo gets it across to Gilbert. Good kick. Sam Fisher. So just getting off the Corns leash for a moment, Sam Fisher. Revolt. They've got players out wide here, and Revolt picked himself up a bit gingerly there. About 80 metres from goal. Back he comes to Gwilt. They can play the patient game, St Kilda. They sit on a pretty handy lead.
Gwilt, plenty of the football in this term too. Goes towards the pocket, and Goddard. Well done by O'Shea. Goddard gave him an edge forward. But O'Shea managed to get back and punch the ball across the boundary line. Ross Lyon. Strange season so far. At their best, still capable, you would think, of challenging, but not a top side just yet. About 20 metres out, Schneider battling in there. Sandwich between two Port players, and umpire McBurney calls for the footy. So dangerous situation. Port need to hold here. The margin is 19.
Watch the holds.
This is where St Kilda did score goals from in that first quarter too, from stoppages inside their forward.
Where's Milne? There he is. He found some space too.
High, free kick.
He got out by himself on the goal side, but the ball didn't quite come to him.
He's a quick thinker, Stevie, isn't he?
I'll say.
Just go long down the line, get it 50 metres down there, and get another stoppage if they have to.
So Logan tries to do that, Tim. He doesn't get much on the ball, though. And Del Santo had a couple of options and found a good one at centre-half forward in Stephen.
You just didn't want to turn the ball over so far into field then. The ball, that first kick had to go a lot closer to the line. And you can see all the St Kilda players. Their spread has been so much better than Port Adelaide's, but I think it's been the fact that they've actually controlled the ball a lot more around congestion than what Port Adelaide's been able to do too.
So there's some good numbers there for Stephen, aren't there? It's the first time he's played against Port Adelaide. Let's see if he can do a gamble. He's about the same spot. Geez, good kick. That's a terrific kick. So St Kilda stretch their lead. Stephen gets his first for the afternoon.
He's a really interesting player, Stephen.
I feel like he's made it now.
Yeah, he really is starting to push himself up into the top class of midfielder. They say that he's extremely quick. He's very explosive. But when you watch him, you watch Dane Swan, when he's not actually running at his full pace, he looks like he's got that duck almost gait. This kid's got the same sort of look about him.
Another young player, Jack Stephen, drafted from the Geelong under-18s, coming off his career high, 27 possessions for the third time last week. All those 27s coming this season. Gray goes after the football. Wonderful courage from Gray, but then fed it to the wrong man. It's scrambled forward by Stephen inside the forward 50. Hartlett did well, gave it back to Salter. Goes out wide, Thomas. He's preparing his move and decided, no, I'll just push it across the boundary line. In fact, he's gone. Gone for deliberate. Short one. Del Santo missed the target, intended for Montagna. Hartlett has been terrific back there. Gave it to Cassisi, drives it towards the wing. Up in front, Stewart. Gwilt leads back in the race. Timely shepherd from Ray, but Gwilt, I think, content to step out of bounds as well.
He's been busy this afternoon, 11 disposals and 2 contested possessions, but he's really been the bloke with Fisher that's been actually locked down by Corns. He's the one that's been able to get free and become that rebounding defender.
So Ray to Stephen to Del Santo, back to Stephen. Down to Graham. They've worked it okay to Ray. He took on Banner and broke the tackle. And that's a dangerous kick, but a good one to Gilbert. Now to Raf Clark, who takes a while to wind up and get that ball to boot. Peake's been a very important player. Chaplin brings him down and then does pretty well. Hartlett, as Dennis said, he's playing some sort of a game, Hartlett at half-back, isn't he? Chaplin back to Hartlett. And then Hartlett, a good kick. Oh, he's a player. Gets to O'Shea. O'Shea. Short inside, Kane Corns wants to go. Danger, Logan, pressure. Milne will love this. If he kicks a goal, he'll be one of the happiest days of his life. There he goes. There he goes. He's happy. Really happy.
Of his life.
Well, it doesn't take much to make him happy, Stephen. That was great play from him. Well, it was great play from him, the way that he chased the ball up. But once again, that indecision from Port Adelaide. They looked like they were away. They had players on the outer side. They were going to be able to share the ball and run and create, and then they missed the target.
Why can't Hamish Hartlett kick it to himself and then handball to himself? Life would be a lot better, wouldn't it?
He's only had 14 touches, Hartlett. Well, here it is. They look like they're away. They had the numbers on the outer side. I mean, he's been good with his pressure, Stevie Milne. I mean, yeah, Port Adelaide should have got out of there, but he's been good with his pressure, and we know his goal sense.
Coming off 3 goals last week, gives him 27 for the season. Del Santo is getting a free, so Kilda will go forward again.
24-13 now, the clearances.
Hasn't he carved out a wonderful career, Stevie Milne? I mean, just a guy around the edges to start with. And suddenly he's a not a power forward, but a powerful forward, if that makes sense, in kicking goals. He really does influence the outcomes of games so frequently. And again today, in conditions sort of tailor-made for him, just working. So Revolt with the football. Well, this one is going left to right beautifully. It goes through the middle. He's got 3. Not sure it was sweet contact, but nevertheless, he'll take it.
There's some real worrying, dangerous signs now.
5 goals between their 2 goal kickers, Milne and Revolt. It's a good return, isn't it?
It is a good return, but the ease with which they're actually moving the ball around the ground now and getting the ball away from clearances. You see the coach there on the bench. He's got plenty of work to do, but there's nothing he can do if the players don't actually commit themselves to the contest. At this stage, they're just not doing that. They're being really overpowered around the ball.
Gee, look at this kick. Wow. Bit of breeze. Perfect, straight through the middle. He hasn't kicked 4 in a match this year, Revolt. He's got 3 for the 5th time, so he could have a bag today. So Milne and Revolt, 5 between them. Gee, Gray was very good there to O'Shea, to Pearce on the right side for him. Reasonable kick inside, but under pressure from Clark, brought down. Chad Corns, little give to Schulz. Now Schulz looks up, wants Road and sets him a task. Polo at the back. And the handball swept by Fisher. Peake's been a very good player. It's a good kick, actually. He just controlled it for the bounce for Gamble. And the Saints completely on top at the moment, leading 8 goals to 2. Bad bounce. Banner, Lobie, inside. Jacobs. Jacobs sets it up. Schulz wants a free kick. He played for it. Well, it was the only way he was going to get the ball because he was outnumbered. Port don't like it, but it was a big act. And now Clark out wide, and they are on. Tim's trying to tell us because Ray's on his own.
Schneider, high ball, just missed the target. Ray should have done a little better there, I thought. Here's Pearce meantime, so back come Port. Ball on the boundary line. Now he'll do something with it. At least kick it to a good spot. Hartlett puts it up. Did better than that. He kicked it to Schultz's advantage. Hartlett's having a wonderful game. This could be a coming out for him today. He's played some good football, but this is stellar stuff.
I just wonder, though, given the way that Ross Lyon coaches, there's that attempted free kick there from Schultz, who tried to draw the free kick, but I mean, he played that really well, got himself into the right position, the kick carried, but I just wonder how long before Ross Lyon actually sends somebody to Hartlett, because really at the moment he's the guy that has his finger in the dike at that end of the ground and repelling so many attacks.
So Schultz were right behind him, and he's allowed perfectly for the breeze. Through it goes. He's got 2.
Tim, it was a good draft with Hartlett. It was Watts, Natanui, Hill, then Hartlett, then Hurley, then Yarran, then Rich, then Vickery, Zeeble, Davis and Sidebottom.
They can all play.
That's a good draft.
Yeah.
That's a good draft.
Hartlett's been a little bit slower because of injuries that have kept him back. Well, there's his stats. I mean, that you'd be happy with that after a game of football, a full game of football, 16 and 12 contested, and his work across half back. He's just been outstanding in this first half.
So we said a pity he can't kick it to himself and then handball to himself. He's actually playing like a young Goddard at the moment, Tim, the way he's delivering off half back. As Port get a little bit of a sniff here with a couple of clearances. Good play by Clark. They're against a rampaging Corns. Clark gets down low again. Thomas probably got into the back there. Jones or Thomas, no free kick.
Come through.
Port at least now getting their teeth into it.
Well, St Kilda only average just over 11 goals a game. So, you know, if your effort increases and then you start to get a little bit of feeling amongst the group, which they haven't had at any stage, Port Adelaide, they're only a couple of goals from being right in this contest again.
Well, the Saints did the same thing last week, didn't they, to North? They kicked 5 in a hurry in the second quarter. Broadbent got it from Gray to full forward. Free kick. Free kick to Stewart.
Hands in the back. Straight over, please, Jones. Straight over, please, Jones. Straight over, mate. Thanks. Just push out, ref. Thanks, mate. Another metre, please, mate.
So, yep, that was there. If you're a Port Adelaide supporter, you're a little nervous right now.
Got no confidence in him.
He should kick it.
Never in
And he
doubt.
does, no. So, Port get a couple in a row.
Hey, Richo, I mean, the thing about those opportunities for forwards, if you put enough pressure at the top of the goal square, it really does make the defender jittery, doesn't it?
That's how nervous Richo is.
That's right. Just mention it.
I'm sure Richo would have agreed with me, though.
Just gave him a hospital hand pass, I think, Tim.
I'm tipping a renaissance.
Well, it's 16-24 in favour of St Kilda centre clearances, but Port have had the last two, which has resulted in 5 inside 50s, repeat inside 50s and 2 goals. They're vital at the moment, these clearances.
Lobe out of the middle.
Port Adelaide. Travis Boak. Port Adelaide free. Travis Boak.
Couple of times today.
Paid from the next umpire.
Naming names. They don't normally do that. Dean Polo's exposed. Boak's got the football. Looks down towards half forward. Ebert comes, getting across though with Schneider, sensing the danger, ghosting in front of the leading player. Plays on, gives it to Graham. Haven't called his name much this afternoon. Lynch goes to Goddard. Oh, clever kick.
That's a beautiful kick, Dennis. But that first kick from Port Adelaide, as a player, you look up and they actually had even numbers in their forward line. Go quickly, go long with even numbers. The only time you need to hold the ball up is when you actually look up and there's uneven numbers down there. It's a critical part of the ground to turn the ball over to.
So Gamble lining up at his second goal. And this one negates a lot of the previous good work over the last 7 or 8 minutes by Port. He puts it through for another one.
That's what he's got to do, Tim Gamble. He's got to kick 2 goals every time he plays.
Yeah, well, he's just got to find some space, doesn't he? Yeah, that's his go.
If he can get 2 goals every match, he's in the team, isn't he?
Yeah. And, you know, with so much of the ball going to Revolt, I mean, you're going to be able to find some space in there, so much attention going that way. As long as you lead smart, you lead at the right time, you should be able to draw the ball. Here's the kick from Boak, and that's a kick. I mean, that's short to an iffy
Situation.
Yeah, he should have gone long.
Yep. So they missed the chance there, Port. Lobe out of the centre. So again, a clearance, and here is Boak, beaten to it that time by Dempster. Stephen. Tim's talked a fair bit about him today. He looks a real player, doesn't he? Looks like he's really come of age. He knows he's in their best 22 and he's playing like it. Del Santo.
Hey.
Be close to the BNF at the club, I reckon. And again, that one cut off by Logan.
Adam, hold there, please, Adam.
Boak on the lead.
Thanks,
So if the Power could manage another goal before half-time, you'd feel they're still in it. Boat down the line. Schulz came in really hard. And then Gamble's fast one to Stephen. Saw a bit of that acceleration just then from Stephen that we were talking about. Back he goes. Quilt just shading his eyes. Now the transfer's on. They can go all the way to Fisher here. He's the next one after this. Graham. No, they'll come back through the corridor. Clark, that loping style. Back he goes to Graham. Graham takes a chance and just gets his kick away. Tringoval market. So not well played by the Saints. They just did too much milking there. They needed to be a lot more efficient. And then Kane Corns gets to Logan.
Good pressure, though, by Thomas. At least he affected that kick going in. His Hartlett.
I don't think their midfielders work hard enough to put Adelaide 2 on a turnover. They were just sort of jogging behind the ball there. It's when St Kilda force a turnover, they actually sprint to get into that space and spread.
Jones gets back to Dawson. Just interesting watching moments ago as Fisher was running to the outer side. One of the few times he's got free today. Port placing a very high priority on just denying him the football. That's a great mark by Milne. Hurling himself at the footy. Sam Fisher, actually, 29 today. It's his birthday, but Chad Corns has been something like an interloper who's nipped in and blown out the candles. He's wrecked his afternoon so far. Normally Sam gets around the 25, 26 possessions a game mark. He's got 4.
Big week for birthdays, Dan.
Who's got the other one?
Bloke standing alongside us. I think
Timmy.
it might have an O on the end of it too.
Tim, you've been so quiet.
The O's at the beginning. Oh, am I that old?
I think he's 50 on Wednesday, Dan.
O'Shea, is that all? O'Shea taken high, getting the free kick. But O'Shea had reason to say oh last week too, because he was penalised for giving away or forcing a deliberate behind. Mind you, there wasn't much doubt to it as he kicks it towards half forward.
Hangs up in the breeze. Jack Corns, not such a good handball. Dempster. Jack Stephen having a terrific match. And the boundary throw in.
It's up to 15 now, Stephen.
Well, it's just what the Saints needed, didn't they? Another quality midfielder. Yeah. Lee Montagna not having his great season. I mean, he's been in AFL All-Australian the last couple of years, but got injured this year, so he's done well, Stephen. He's filled a breach. Dal Santo gets it over Broadbent, then to Lynch, and here's Montagna. So, interesting first half. I mean, it's been hard going for Port. Saints got a bit of a burst. Port kicked a couple. Gamble got one back. Revolt and Milner got 5 between them. They look like they're in control, don't they? They need to win. They've got to keep the pressure on those teams in the 8. And at half-time on Sunday football in Adelaide at Amy, it's 57 the Saints and 26 the Power.
Just a youngster. Obviously not the body, really, to compete with Goddard. We've seen that exposed a few times. Needs to get in there and lift a few weights. Or as the Beast would say, get into the house of reps. I like that. There goes the kick from Del Santo inside the forward 50. Spills in front, sliding in. Logan did well, gave it to Corns. Broadbent feeds it back. Chaplin forward to Gray. Miscues with a kick. Goddard in front of the man I spoke of moments ago. That's O'Shea. Not his fault that time. It was a terrible kick, as was the kick from Goddard. It bounces out of bounds in the pocket.
That's just a little problem at the moment, Revolt, we noticed there. Interesting to see what the Saints do here, Tim, in the second half. I feel like they need a really big win, you know. They need to kick a big score, get a monkey off their back.
Well, they just don't do that. I mean, this season,
well, it today.
They just haven't been able to do that. And as I said in the first half, they only averaged just over 11 goals a game.
Well, there's the challenge, eh? Revolt over the top, Milne. No. And for Port, we know what their last quarters have been like this year, so that'll be a challenge in itself for them. And that ball hurled up now, coming out. Sweeping handball by Gray, almost as good as a kick in the end. O'Shea, okay, to Cassisi. Now Cassisi looked up, didn't have anyone really clear, but kicked to a contest. Schulz pushed his man in the back. Stewart, got to be better than that. That handball wasn't great. That was terrific, though, by Thomas. Who, well, does that so well. Pearce held on to. Corns trying to get rid of Clark, and he sort of does, and then can't quite get a kick. Just don't play that back to anyone that minute, would you, Dennis? Just erase that bit, would you, Peak? Keep erasing. Thomas going through with Cassisi. I'll tell you when to hit the button. Schneider, hit it now. It's all yours.
OK, Bruce, I hit it. There goes Schneider back to the back pocket, and Montagne's taken it. Half-time can be a hazard, can't it? Oh. Blokes just sort of hunker down. It takes a few minutes to fire up. Goddard's got it. Moments ago, we saw Goddard at the other end, miscue with a kick after he marked an errant kick coming out. Still not logging the mistakes. We're looking for virtue in this game as Goddard kicks it short of the wing.
Holding the arm, Nick Rewald. He can't get two arms to mark the contest.
Here's the explanation. Del Santo cruising by, looking for his 21st possession. Del Santo still going. Well, undecided, hand passed it straight into Trengove, and it flicked out of bounds.
This is a spark, Port Adelaide. They just need to spark themselves up here. We want to see a better effort than what they were able to give in that first half.
Lobie and McAvoy. McAvoy was really good in that first half. Gray couldn't quite, and then Jones goes back. McAvoy. He was a high draft pick, McAvoy, Tim. I reckon he's, in a couple of years, going to be a very good player. Gardner, of course, didn't get through the reserves yesterday, which was a bit of a blow. Stephen to Revolt to Jones to Graham. Haven't seen him do much of this today. Running hard, kicking Peak very quick off the mark. Port got some numbers back. Salter couldn't quite cake it through. Montagna down low. Peak got down low. Well done, Chaplin. Came across in front of Peak, and I think it'll be a ball up. It is. Do you like McAvoy? Do you think he's going to be something or not?
He's developing. Yeah, no, he's going to be a good ruckman. They do take time, the big fellas.
Yeah, he was very good last week against North, I thought. Almost a determining factor in the last quarter against a good player in Goldstein.
Yep.
Lobie knocked it down. Goddard looking for a way through. Standing his ground was Logan. Lobie thought he had the football. Didn't. Now we got a whistle. It's only about 30 metres out from St Kilda's attacking goal. 26 plays 57. They can ill afford to concede the first goal of the second half. After the bounce, it falls again to Lobie. I tell you what, he is good at it, Lobie, is that follow-up work after he does compete.
And that's exactly what you want from your modern-day ruckman too. Not just somebody that can test, but you want somebody who actually hits the ground and puts some pressure, or even attempts to put some pressure on the opposition.
Nat Nui-izes the opposition. Just made up a word.
It will be in the dictionary one day, Nat Nui, I reckon, don't you? Under exotic.
Well, I know I'd go to the ends, but after what happens there, I still have trouble with that name.
Jeff down here, where the bounce is. Oh, no, he's a great hit. We're here for the angle, mate, so it's fine.
We're back where we started the game from, Tim.
Well, that's...
Milne! Nick Rewalt's, mate. He's got the angle here.
So, Stephen Milne...
That's the second free kick in this second half, though, just because of his body size and his ability that's troubling somebody that's undersized.
And, of course, he started the match. Before it actually, a ball was bounced with a free kick. Does he kick a fourth goal for the first time in a match this year? He does. Revolt's got 4.
It's gone through at head height, Timmy.
Yep, just about there. Yeah.
Oh.
You rarely see anybody on the goal line in modern day football. There's one that occurred last night too in the first quarter when Essendon were playing against Richmond, and there's absolutely no one near the goal line.
You would think that would fall under the heading of 1%ers, wouldn't you?
Well, there's the free kick. You can see it. The left of screen there, Trengove had hold of the back of Revolt's jumper, and that's a free kick every day. I mean,
that's right.
There's just nothing to defend that.
And did you see where the umpire was standing? 10 metres with an unimpeded view directly behind Trengove. As Boat kicks it inside the forward 50. After it goes Fisher. Squirts one out towards short of the wing, coming through Dempster. Back to Fisher. Fisher, one of his few possessions, but Rusty kicks it directly to Banner. Banner's got the football. Well, that should have been 50. Was it 50? No. Milne came, I thought, from behind the mark. I didn't hear play on. Close to the boundary line. It's across now.
Okay, no worries.
Gee.
Oh.
Del Santo, Jones. In front, Revolt. Well done by Trengove. Edged him under the football, and again a nice shepherd. Although he let some pressure accrue to the man with the football, Jacobs, who gave it back to him. Around the outer side, Port work it well. This is Banner. Banner sends it towards the pocket. Third man up was Wilt. Couldn't take the mark. Hand pass came out from Schultz. Knocked out of there by Graham. Picked up by Chad Corns. Taken by Banner. Held a while. Fumble from Corns. Jones has got it. Gives it to Wilt. Running out of space, which is a good thing for the Saints. He heads for the boundary line. And the umpire says throw it in.
Hey, Dennis, there's going to be 5, 6 very tired players. This was going on for about a minute and a half while the play just occurred around it. All those players who are standing there with their hands on their hip after that.
They'll all come to the interchange bench if they've got the energy to get there. Well, hopefully Port shows much fire getting the footy, eh? Because that's what they've got to do at the moment in stoppages. So Lobie over the top, and then Banner back to Logan, left footer, so a good side for him. Kicks to a contest. Gray wanted a free kick, would have been better off to stand up and try and win the footy. Peak over the top, Gilbert back towards Good, and Thomas gives him one just for practice.
Oh no.
I agree with that.
Did he?
Yeah, I reckon he belted him over the line. I reckon that's a
on again behind play.
Oh.
There's spot fires breaking out everywhere here.
So Corns, Trengove, now Gray. Good tackle on Schneider. Jacobs back to Corns. Got to be a hot footy right now. Let's see who can handle it, eh? Out it comes. Pearce over the top. And Blues going on everywhere.
Well, after the inertia of half-time, best thing that could have happened. Schultz has lost his jumper. Pearce has got a free kick. Schultz is still putting his jumper on up ahead of the play. There goes the ball. About 20 metres out from goal. Off hands taken by Jones with some dash. Gets a hand pass to Stephen. Back to Jones, running out of space. Not a great kick. And this one, well, it's turned out okay. It's stayed in for a start. Peak with that blistering pace. Gets across, finds the footy, goes down the line. Now the umpire will knock it off. And I don't know how you can do that. He's called deliberate. Peak was on the line, so he's kicked a straight ball. Now, not many players, well, I suppose some do know which way it's going to bounce, but there's a lot of luck in that. We'll watch it again. On the line. Timmy.
Well, I think he had one intention and one intention.
Well, he may have, but gee whiz. I mean, that was a spiral off the boot. It wasn't the pristine kick.
No, but I think he was going for touch.
Oh, Tim.
Sorry to disagree with that.
Okay, no, Tim.
So short from Jacobs to Ebert. And then Ebert with a poor kick. Clark picks it off. Lopes away. Smother though right into the breadbasket of Jacobs. Boundary throw in. So this is a nice recent fight we've had.
And this was about 150 metres off where the ball was at the time.
So do those guys get matches, Tim, or just get
No, they'll
fined?
get fined for that. An expensive little brawl, that one.
Stevie Mill just disappeared.
That's about a $14,500 fight, that one.
Did you see Steve just go to right of screen? He went like he was in the Iditarod. He just
Milne loves getting involved in that too, Dan, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's a musher.
I said it was the happiest day of his life.
Yeah, well, no longer.
He's kicked 2 goals and had a fight. So Del Santo in to Fisher. Now Fisher getting off the leash a little. Good kick out wide. Revolt gives him a run. Let's see the athleticism of Revolt if he's can bring Trengove to ground. Trengove just held up. Ball up. Still not moving quite as fluidly as at his top. Revolt is enough.
No, it looks like he might be troubled by a knee or something. But on that occasion, Trengove was actually playing Revolt instead of the ball. I mean, and that's what happens when you're playing against, great players, that you actually get mesmerised by them.
McAvoy did brilliantly, got it down to Schneider. That's not a bad looking effort from Schneider. It may have bounced through for a goal. No, touched on the line by O'Shea. Well done by the young fella. Getting back and just getting a fingertip to it. Hartlett to bring it back in there. So testy game, certainly Not a skillful game by any stretch of the imagination. And the Saints in control, but they're being tested physically. And we've got a ball up. Last man up off the ball there was Ebert, who copped one as he competed. Interesting during the week. Controversy here in Adelaide too. CM Punk, you might remember, from the WWE, abused the crowd, Tim. Not like him, but he had a bit to say. He later tweeted an apology. But I say sack him and give the job to the beast. Call me biased if you like. At left half back, the kick from Ebert just beyond the wing. Well done by Gilbert over the top, and he thumps it out of bounds.
Do you ever get any emails saying, now, just who is the beast?
Several, actually, but he's had too much publicity, mainly from me, so I never acknowledge them. Does that make sense?
We're with you.
Thank you.
So Port stuck on 4-2. The Saints lead it by 6. Cassisi, but there's lots of good contests at the moment.
He's in trouble here.
Yep. Holding the ball.
Never made any attempt.
Very hard when two blokes are sitting on your back, isn't it?
I reckon if you had a chance, you'd rewrite that rule, wouldn't you?
I can't believe that hasn't been rewritten.
No, it's just not. It's not right. Anyway, Peak, high ball in, and O'Shea just went up with one in the end. Hartlett read it pretty well. Lynch gets onto him, and then Milne gives away a free kick.
No. Just relax. You got the free. Straight to him on the full.
Well, you don't blame him for being a bit annoyed with Milne, but he's that sort of guy, Stevie. So Hartlett wants Jacobs, and McAvoy boundary throw in.
When the rule should be the second guy in who jumps on top of the bloke and locks the ball in should be penalised. I mean, he's the one that's stopping the ball from flowing.
Gee, I hope you get on the rules committee.
I've been on there once.
Got you to thank then, have we?
That was a long time ago.
Down goes Goddard with the ball up just outside the attacking 50. 64 plays 26. Hartlett's been terrific today, but lacking support and getting a lot of his ball deep in defence. Beat a couple that time. Strong tackle by O'Shea. Another one coming up. Just get the feeling the disparity between the top teams and the bottom teams is starting to spread. I suppose the one counterpoint to that argument is the West Coast Eagles. But with the draft compromised for the last few years now, some of these bottom sides just have to go with what's made them unsuccessful. There's the kick from Pearce out of bounds on the full. There's no cavalry, Tim. I mean, you imagine a couple of those good boys at West Coast, perhaps even 3 of them playing for Port. So that's a price paid by the bottom teams. There's never an ideal time to do it, but I think some of them have paid a pretty stiff penalty. Here's Schneider.
We feel at the moment we've got a top 5, a bottom 5, and 7 in between, don't we? The Saints are in between, and Port are, unfortunately for them, down in that lower group, as are Adelaide. So Ray getting it from Jones, and then Ray, careful kick to Gamble, well marked.
That's a really good mark, but really loose play by Port Adelaide in the middle of the ground that they got opened up like that and afforded so much space to be able to set this attacking move up. He's played a good cameo role, hasn't he, Gamble, this afternoon?
He's one of 8 players who've played for another AFL club playing for the Saints today. They turn them over like the Swans. Does he kick a 3rd goal? It's coming back. He's got 3. That'll do for him. That's a good day's work.
It's all about effort and organisation when you look at Port Adelaide, and you know, at that part of the ground you really should be trying to lock down on your opponents and at least making sure that they can't move the ball so fluently through the corridor like they just did then. And you know, that's what Matthew Primus is up against at the moment. It's the concentration of this group of players. I'm sure they've been told over and over again, this is what we need to do at this part of the ground, this is what we need to do at this part of the ground, but they're just not following instructions.
Yeah, he's had a good day, Ryan Gamble. 3 goals now. And they're able to get that goal, the Saints, because they've been able to get a spare number behind the ball. You've got Hartlett loose at one end and a spare for St Kilda at the other. And he's getting used, running through the middle, delivers it beautifully into the forward line.
Margin 44 points. Comes across to Stephen. Drives it inside the forward 50. Going back, Trengove. Ray was the man who dug it out of the middle. Now it's Hartlett. Comes out very wide, trying to move the ball to Ebert. Ricochets off his shin and goes across the boundary line.
As good as Hartlett's been behind the ball, and we know we've sung his praises all afternoon, he's up to 20. I just wonder whether or not they don't need him on the ball now.
Yeah, I think where the game's, Timmy. Yeah, it's just not working. The loose man, the Saints loose man, is delivering an inside 50, whereas Hartlett's just doing all his work deep in defence.
Well, I think you just fixed Hartlett, Tim. He's off the ground at the moment on the bench. There goes Stephen on the lead. Revolt 55 metres out, looking down towards full forward. Then he centres the ball over the head of Steve Milne. Son might have been a problem. Back goes Schneider, swooping on it. Milne lays it off Goddard, looks back towards the middle and finds Stephen. That's a brilliant kick. Only a master craftsman can complete that kick, going with the left back across his body with this breeze, and it struck Stephen. Almost an involuntary action on the chest.
Good hands off the ground from Milne. He's so clever at that part of the ground, isn't he, Goddard?
So, Stephen, to add to Port's woes, you'd expect him to kick this. Just needs right post. Well, started on the wrong line, hits the post. Left post.
That's a wobble on it, that kick. It was a great camera shot. We're right behind it. And there was nothing clean about the movement through the air.
I think it's the first time he's missed a set shot this year. He hasn't had a heap of them, I know, but no, he never struck it, did he? But tell you what he is doing, he's playing one heck of a game, Stephen.
And how much more powerful then does their midfield look next year with Lenny Hayes back in it too? Because, you know, they effectively discovered Stephen. He's gone past Armitage as a player.
Revolt did well there, just holding it up. And then Gray and also Del Santo. The big question mark out of this match today will be, despite all the little spot fires we're seeing, is can the Saints make a charge in the second half of the year? Are they good enough? You know, have they got the personnel to actually do some damage? Can they make the final? So Gray's quick kick around. Fisher tries to keep it in, and I don't think he has. No, it's a boundary try.
I think they've got the personnel to make the finals, but I think there's teams that are clear cut above the rest of the competition. I mean, Collingwood lead that. Then you've got Geelong and you've got Carlton Hawthorn. And I think they're still a fair way below those teams.
I said at the start, Tim, that 5 of their 7 losses this year have been against the top 4. So they've had trouble with the really good teams, haven't they?
Cassisi's got the ball at left half back. Good to see that Chad hasn't lost that look, that intimidating look moments ago. He was giving it in spades. Here's Milne. Goes looking for Revolt. Too much carry on the kick. Behind is Chaplin. Mind you, you've got to be careful picking a block. Oh, Chaplin. He was looking for Hartlett, who was wider still, about 5 metres in from the line, but it wobbled onto the chest of Del Santo. Not always wise, Tim, to pick a fight with a bloke who's announced he's retiring.
Well, you think he's got nothing to lose?
Well, if you're really upset him, you could wear one. Chad at the moment, though, just resorting to looks. He's keen on playing a bit more football. He's been terrific today, but Del Santo steers it through. So much of the football for Del Santo. He's up to 28 possessions now.
Yeah, I know that was a poor kick then from Port Adelaide and Chaplin, but you know the other thing about that is that St Kilda do this really well. They actually put pressure on the kick from that part of the ground too. They pushed up in numbers, so the kick itself actually had to be a really accurate kick between players, and you know, with the wind and the extra pressure, a guy of his maturity and experience should be able to hit that kick. He's had a busy afternoon, hasn't he, Del Santo?
He sure has.
Coming into the game, he'd been averaging 27 the last 4 weeks. Good balance too between his contested, uncontested play, but and he's been tackling too. One of their better tacklers.
Well, 4 of his last 5 matches, Tim, he's actually had 30 plus. So he's going to do that again today. Goddard really working into the match. There's Del Santo. That one not such a good disposal. Then Boak, well, he's a bit sloppy there. Back to O'Shea. Quick kick away by Jacobs. Banner went hard. Polo with him. Saints with numbers. McAvoy did pretty well, the big guy. And then going forward, Armitage. So Armitage on the ground now. Ebert couldn't quite control it. Dempster forces it forward. Chaplin quickly out wide. Now Hartlett. Poor kick, didn't strike it. And Goddard, who's having a beautiful third quarter, to Gwilt.
Gwilt Well, that's a terrible looking kick too, but it finds its mark. It's centre half forward Schneider. Polo is on for the short one and gets it now.
A lot of Port Adelaide players just putting their hands up in the air there, Dennis, wanting to know who's on this bloke. I mean, all they were doing was guarding space then. They weren't actually guarding any of the opponents that had drifted into that dangerous part of the ground.
Well, if it's any consolation, they had him surrounded. There's Polo. Goddard running past him, which serves as something of a distraction for Polo. So as a result, it's a terrible kick. That can happen sometimes. You get a senior player cruising past and you do that. Richard?
Yeah, well, both teams have brought their subs on at pretty much the same time. So Hitchcock has come on for Dave Roden and Armitage is on for Farron Ray.
Roden started well today, didn't he? Had an impact early. So half volley to Hartlett, then a low kick. And Corns had it cut off. Not 15, the umpire said. Goddard back to Dos Santo. Gang tackled. Ball up.
Again, even at that ball, there was a 5-on-3. St Kilda, their decision-making and their ability or their preparedness to actually work is far superior than what Port Adelaide's been able to display this afternoon.
So Goddard, free kick, I think.
Play on, advantage, play on.
So Graham with, well, the advantage maybe, well, it wasn't anything in the end, was it? Chaplin. Then Chaplin decides to take Debster on, doesn't do well. Polo gets it back from Armitage, puts it to centre half forward. Lynch and Salter, Peak. Back it goes to Jacobs, to Broadbent. Then Broadbent, good kick. That was a really clever kick. Found Thomas. Now can Port get a breakaway here, something they've been very, very rare in doing. Hitchcock one hand up, Banner over the top. Hitchcock off that bench, outnumbered again. We've said that a lot today.
Saints, though, numbers 4 to the ball. Schneider finishes up with it, kicks inside the forward 50. Revolt battles 3, finishes up with the footy, but he's clunked it.
Port Adelaide have only been inside 50 on 17 occasions for nearly 3/4 of football.
That term, clunked it. Where did that come from, Tim? That's a shocker.
It's from the Colonel, wasn't it?
I don't know where it came from, but a mark is a mark. We don't need clunked. Logan along the boundary. Even the umpires are using the term now. It's out of bounds. It'll be thrown in.
Isn't there a Colonel clunk?
Now, that was a good shot. Don't get me started. Boundary throw in, right half forward. One down by McAvoy. Cassisi stood up in the tackle, did well. Broadbent, who's been pretty quiet, lays it off to Pearce. That's Pearce with a little chip. This is Hitchcock, the sub into the action, and that's a beautiful pass. Corns came on the lead. Thomas is on to the far side. Thomas has got it now. 60 metres from goal, can go to Logan and or Stewart. He's going for the bigger target.
And that is, without doubt, Dennis, the best passage of play that Port Adelaide have put together. They've moved the ball from a stoppage at half back to setting up a goal-scoring opportunity for just their 18th inside 50 for the afternoon.
And probably it all broke down for the Saints because they were paid advantage at the other end a minute or so ago before that stoppage you spoke of. I don't think any of us saw that coming, Tim. I thought it was a good rule, but it's turned out to be an absolute disaster, hasn't it? There goes the kick from Stewart, and he's tugged it and hit the post.
It is I was with you. I thought that it might have been the right way to go, but it just doesn't work in practice.
So Goddard quickly to Montagna. Tucks it under the arm, has a running bounce. Gilbert, good stretch by Gilbert out wide. And back in by Lynch to Montagna, working hard. They've run the ball all the way to centre wing and now further than that. And they've got Lucy's everywhere. Schneider, ordinary old kick. Peak with pace. We know he can get around. He takes Broadbent on and then does he go? Well, that's a poor effort. That's not good. Not so good. That was not deliberately out of bounds that time.
They like to go wide, but Schneider, when he was coming down the ground on the outer flank, the outer wing, he actually burnt Milne, who'd made really good space and position in the centre of the ground, but it was as though that wasn't part of what they do, and he went wide again with his kick.
So Hartlett threads the needle and does it pretty well to Broadbent, and that's Chad Corns. Good mark. He'll stay in the team next week, I reckon, Chad.
Maybe not.
Just go back, take your kick. Don't go back at him. Thank you.
Okay. Corns. Left half back. Ebert. Two famous names there,
Stay up, stay up.
Even with the ball midway between the lines. Half back and centre wing. A lot of St Kilda players up ahead, so Ebert will go down the line going for distance. The target is Thomas, who did very well, and that's a good result as far as they're concerned. It goes out of bounds.
This is Forms just playing a little bit of polo.
Throw it in. McAvoy to Stephen, dragged down.
On his feet when tackled, no cry rock.
Terrific game for Stephen. He'd be certainly in the best on the ground, one of the best 3 or 4, you'd think. So Saints are going to have a good win here, keeping Port to a very low score. McAvoy won the tap, Kasisi won the clearance, kicks the ball to about 40 metres. Shaw's again outnumbered, Goddard over the back, Clark to Gwilt. What a fine player Gwilt's become. He really blossomed last year, had a great final series. Peak, had a good match, Peak. A couple of running bounces, you would think, yes. Now can he deliver? Goes over the top. Lynch still finding his way in this team. That's a poor kick. And Broadbent, who's never missed a game under Matthew Primus. 21 out of 21. He must like him. Good kick inside.
Thomas to Hitchcock. Hitchcock threads a nice pass looking for Schultz. Was that in the back? Would have thought so. Play goes on. Ball up.
Hey guys, hey, it's your free kick, mate. Just stand up and take the free kick.
So Port will get a free kick. That's Thomas, or is it Boak?
Travis.
Boak. So he'll line up a goal from about 35 metres out. He's had a quiet day. We were talking about Broadbent. We brought the best out in him. Suddenly he's had 4 possessions, I reckon, in the last 2 minutes. He's up to 8. Boak has had to work against Clinton Jones, and nobody likes that in the AFL. Boak's kick is on the way. And sometimes players, when they go against those negating players who give them a tough time, even when they get their chances, are a little dispirited. They're used to getting so much of the football. Boak in terrific form in the last month. When they're denied the football, their confidence starts to ebb away a little bit. So that's part of the battle as Goddard goes to the outer side. Beautiful kick and Lynch.
Good mark too, Dennis. So Saints under control here. Port without a goal in this third quarter. Couple of points from Stewart and Boak, both set shots. And the Saints with Gamble and Del Santo getting goals. And Revolt. So St Kilda in an unassailable position here. It's been slow going. It's been hard to get a goal, certainly for the Power. And at 3/4 time, the margin's 50 points. It's 28-78 on Sunday football.
Stage this afternoon to link up their play.
Start of the final term then. Port lead it by 50, or rather wishful thinking. St Kilda by 50. Webby knocks it down, and they'll do it again.
Clear out.
Very animated around this bounce. McAvoy wins it down, intended for Del Santo. Armitage, the sub, initially sends it down inside the forward 50. Hartlett, the contested mark, did very well. Puts it across towards Hitchcock. Back it comes through Hartlett. Across the ground then by Chaplin, and the mark is held by Logan.
Yeah, let's hope they play a bit of high-risk footy, Port. I mean, there's not much to lose right now, is there? You would love to think that they can try and break the line a bit more quickly. Logan, G. Hartlett covering some ground. Jacobs to Banner, then Banner quickly onto the boot. Now Lobe in the front spot. Good mark, McAvoy. Done well. Graham, little kick to Goddard. Had a huge third quarter, Goddard. Graham getting involved. Running bounce, directing traffic. Runs his full measure. Out wide, poor handball. Dempster had to wait. Gray in the back half for the moment. Can't quite release it. Thomas toe-poked it to himself. He'll take him on, Thomas, and he did well. To Logan, and then Logan with a careful kick wide to Banner.
Very little on here, though, Bruce.
So Banner, who's been in good form in the SANFL in recent weeks, comes across the ground. Jacobs has got it. Plays on immediately. Gray through midfield, generally does something with a footy. Corns up high, couldn't hang on, falls behind Gilbert, gave it across to Jones. Del Santo over 30 now to the wing. Montagna. Well, numbers are back for Port, so he waited, gave it to Armitage. Revolt comes forward, takes a tumbling mark. Now he spilt it. Trying to feed it off there was Trengove. Well played. He slapped it out. Kane Corns, met solidly by Armitage. Picked up brilliantly by Peake, one of his best games for the club. Hooks it across his body. Camped off the football, All Saints, and they'll crumb it through Gamble. Gamble turns around and kicks a goal. He's got 4 this afternoon.
And again, they were able to get more numbers to the fall of the ball than what Port Adelaide were. This time it was actually in their own attacking part of the ground where Port Adelaide had spare players. So it is really just a work rate factor with Port Adelaide. When that ball went in, it was a 3-on-2 in St Kilda's favour, and the kick was almost to the top of the goal square. Well, this kick really put Port Adelaide's back line under some real pressure. 2-on-3, and then Gamble, who's been a real opportunist this afternoon, was able to finish, and that's his 4th goal, and he'd have to be happy, as we see there on screen, with his performance.
Equals a career high, Tim. He hasn't played a lot of footy. He kicked 4 against the Dogs in 2008. He actually got 21 goals in 13 matches that season. But this has been a good performance by him.
It has.
90th in the draft, and the Saints will be thinking right now, well, you know, maybe there was no risk involved. Maybe he can turn into something. Lobie hurled up, can't quite get rid of it. And it's going to be still nothing happening. That ball's still not coming out.
He just stood there. Put your head into it, fine.
I think it's going to be a ball up.
Here
Richo, what have you got for us?
Yeah, one thing we haven't talked about a lot today is that job there. Dempster on Pearce. Pearce is one Port player that should be able to get uncontested ball. That's his job, but Dempster's been terrific. Shut him right out of the game today.
He can do a job, can't he, Dempster? So, played well in the finals last year. Cassisi, Corns, Salter. Careful kick. Banner had a little bit of the ball in the second half, Banner.
Across the ground, made it hard for Logan, who did brilliantly. He plucked it. Now he's away, deserving of a goal. He goes down towards full forward. Going back was Ebert. Over the top was Clark. Down goes Dawson. Battling in there is Schultz, and the umpire calls for it.
And Dempster, when he goes to you, there's a kick in, really, it was to the advantage position. Pretty good play there by Clark just to get a hand to it. Dempster goes to players, he shuts him down. He does not take his eye off the player. He runs past the ball to make sure that he sticks with his players. He's only had 6 touches this afternoon. But he has stopped Pearce from being an influential player.
Thanks, boys.
With Ebert moments ago, the crowd wanting a hand over the shoulder, or arm over the shoulder. That could have been right. It's one of those 50-50s. Didn't get it. The ball was out of bounds in the pocket. Tough game to umpire. Tough game to barrack for a team in. So those two things often combine to make people very angry. Down in front, Hitchcock dragged down. Fisher slips a hand pass away. Montagna.
All clear, under pressure.
Graham went back to Gwilt. Well, if they position themselves behind the goal line, I doubt you can call it deliberate, Tim, because, well, you just look up and you see him.
And talk about positioning themselves too. There was every St Kilda player was within 60 metres of where that last stoppage took place. So they move in a swarm, St Kilda, up and down the ground. That's why it's so hard to score against them. Went 4-5 for a afternoon of football and just 22 inside 50s for Port Adelaide now.
Beautiful play by Goddard. It was a lovely mark and a great kick. Now Dempster quickly on to Milne, and then Milne with a long low kick. Lovely kick to Schneider, who kicks the goal. Well played. Goddard started it, Schneider finished it.
I mean, that was just perfect football. And the way they set that up, and when Milne had the ball, he actually had 3 options to kick the ball to. Revolt led to him. He had another option inside, and then he had the longer option, which was, as it turned out, the better option, deep.
Tim was just talking before this goal about St Kilda rolling up all within 60 metres of the Port Adelaide goal. They then had more run and urgency on the spread, and they took it from one end of the ground to the other, uncontested, and kicked an easy goal there for Schneider. Just better work rate.
Boat got a boot to it, smothered though. It only went about 5 metres. O'Shea only as far as Raf Clark. So Matthew Primus coaching his second game against St Kilda. Lost the first one by 94 points. I don't think we'll get 94 today, but we'll go close. Currently, it's at 61. Raf Clark all the way back to Gwilt. A lot of the football this afternoon for Gwilt. He's up to 18 possessions. Sends it to the defensive side of the ground. What a nice kick. Jones missed an easy mark. It goes behind the banner. A lot of the football in the last quarter. Boak slips it across towards Thomas. Thomas goes along the boundary line. Schultz looks back inside. Missed Boak. Well, it looked a good 15. Jacobs hand passes outside the 50. Taken by Pearce. One of the few times he's found some space this afternoon. Bit surprised by it all. Gives it across to Thomas. Thomas plays on quickly. Banner gives it back to Hitchcock. Normally reliable in this situation. And he kicks a good goal. That's what he's there for.
Adelaide really taking advantage of a lack of pressure there from St Kilda. They just didn't have the work rate that we've seen so much throughout the course of the afternoon on that occasion. They just sat back and were hoping that it didn't happen. It didn't go to their man, and Port Adelaide being able to share and a good finish. Here's the setup, and I mean Thomas works hard, doesn't he? Like he took on the player on the mark, and that created, I mean, movement creates something for the players downfield, and there just hasn't been enough of that for Port Adelaide today. They haven't really played with any great dare.
Hitchcock started as a sub. Got his chance because Simon Phillips did his shoulder last week, but he did kick 4 for Glenelg last weekend, Hitchcock, so he's on the board. Stephen's been terrific. Talked about Dempster's effort, Revolt and Tringo, and a boundary throw in. 4 for Revolt today, so he's up to 23 for the season. We'll be talking to him at the end of the match. It's his biggest bag for the year. He started the match with a goal before the first bounce. Free kick against Tringo, and that sort of set the scene, didn't it?
Yep.
Del Santo, Goddard, who's been brilliant in the second half. He's had an interesting year, Goddard. I mean, really struggled early. We know that he had the tag of best player, best utility in the game. Last month's got better, but I don't feel like he's impacted on a match much, but in the second half he has. I know this is a low base we're working on today, but there are signs, aren't there?
There's been some good signs from him today. On Goddard, I just wonder about the impact the injury to Lenny Hayes had on Brendan Goddard. You know, the balance of their midfield and where the players were going, and because most sides only carry the one tag, and Goddard really wasn't getting that tag. It was either going to Hayes or it was going to Del Santo, and then his performance elevated him in the eyes of everybody during that final series. So all of a sudden he's getting that extra pressure.
He's such a key, though, isn't he? I mean, if he plays well.
Goddard kicks the goal and immediately takes a seat. 22 possessions this afternoon. Just under 14 minutes remaining in this one. 96 plays 35, so we're back to 61. Stewart opposed to McAvoy. McAvoy, the more experienced ruckman, tapped it down. Didn't go far. Broadbent dives in.
Yeah, you're both diving it, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Vinny.
Small crowd, as we said earlier. I would imagine a lot to do with Port's form, but also, of course, the weather. It's been bitterly cold. As Port go forward, Thomas comes up and takes a good mark. He knows one way, Thomas, that's straight at the football. Admirable footballer. Well, the hand pass comes from Boak. A little untidy. Kane Corns has to go back and fetch it. Pearce. Well, he made Thomas work. Thomas did well, almost took the mark. Diving in there. Can't identify those legs. Chad Corns. Gee, you know your players well, Macca. We'll have a bounce about 55 metres. I still haven't recognised. Unbelievable.
Well, he lives around the corner. I see him on the beach every morning, so I know those legs.
done.
Over the top was Stewart. He's in the better part of the street too, Dan.
Right behind you.
Turn it back up.
So a ball up. So he's done enough, Chad. I hope he can play the season out. He hasn't announced his retirement, by the way. I mean, I think, who knows? I mean, he won't play for Port next year. His only option, I think, would be GWS if he does it, unless he retires. So Kasisi goes forward, gets it to about 20 metres. Gray to fetch it. Now Gray looking for the handball. Port had some numbers, but they've got a long way back. Now Pearce could kick this. And he does. That's a good kick.
Richo just spoke about Pearce. It hasn't been a great afternoon for him. He's had the tight tag of Dempster on him, so he hasn't been able to do what he likes to do, and that is get free, get into the space and run and create. The game just opening up a little bit for Port Adelaide. They're finding a bit more breathing space since last quarter.
So this lead just seesawing, 61 back to 55 again. That's interesting what you said, Bruce, because I just assumed that he would have announced his retirement.
No.
Wow. It makes it hard for everybody, doesn't it? McAvoy. And history of players going to even expansion clubs for a season or two is not good. I mean, it's prolonging the inevitable. And I don't know, it always looks to have a bitter conclusion.
He may retire, Dennis, but he just hasn't announced it.
Okay, no, that's fine. Brogan has.
Yep, Brogan has.
Graham. And Kane Corns wouldn't have.
No.
Oh, that's in the back, is it? No, no free kick to Boak, who connects with the footy of the second attempt. Ball comes across to Gilbert now from Graham. Squares the ball. Wilt's got it outside the defensive 50.
Gee, they've been organised down back, haven't they, St Kilda? Every opportunity they've got, there's always somebody there, free, ready to go again, waiting for the ball to be delivered.
Short one, and the mark is taken by Raf Clark, meters. And now 50. We don't really talk about money in the AFL in terms of individual players. It's a little un-Australian, but quite often players have a tricky decision to make because towards the end of their careers, having been underpaid, I guess, at the beginning, sometimes getting very good money, it's not easy to walk away from. And the ball goes out of bounds. Peak just following it through. And on what we've seen today, Chad's still got a bit to offer. He's been very good in a negating role. He's been a great player and deserves to be remembered as such. Kasisi got it from Lobe. Hurried kick out towards the outer side. Bounces past Goddard, taken by Schneider.
Then Schneider, who's kicked a goal in this quarter, asks a bit of Jones. He gets back onto it, Jones. Then he concedes. Goddard building those numbers. Usually a lovely kick, and that's a beauty to Del Santo. Talking of numbers. Well, the Corns boys, there's only 5 players at Port Adelaide who've played 200 games, and 2 of them have got surnames Corns, so they've been wonderful players, I reckon, for a long, long time. Goddard, Tim, if he could play 6 great matches going in, what a difference he'll make.
How dangerous is he too when he gets the ball forward to centre like he just did there? He looked at the first option, wasn't right.
And Del Santo's having a good season, really good season. Gee, that's a lovely kick. He's kicked 2 today. He probably gets the 3 votes after that. He'd be close, wouldn't he?
Oh, very close. You know, St Kilda early in the year, one of the things that was really letting them down as a team, and I don't know whether or not it was the fact that Lenny Hayes wasn't playing, but what was letting them down was their organisation, their hardness and their contested possession around the stoppages. They just weren't able to move the ball, and so much of their game is generated by them being able to do that. One, getting it themselves, or B, stopping the other side from actually being able to get a clearance.
102 plays 41 midway through this final term. It's getting pretty dull now at Amy Stadium. Talking about the light. As the ball is bounced one down by Lobe with the left hand. Sliding in there was Ebert.
Oh, no, free kick!
deserves a free kick.
Careful, Adam. Careful.
Schneider gets a warning. Gilbert gets the football. Comes out very wide, having to wait for it, O'Shea. Got there in the nick of time with Goddard bearing down. So O'Shea has had a good lesson this afternoon. Spent a lot of time on Goddard. Kicks inside the forward 50. Chad Corns came hard. Couldn't complete the mark. Hand pass from Raf Clark. Gave it across to Fisher. Fisher was held after disposing of the football. Advantage will be paid, but it's, as you can see, about 5 metres. Stephen gets the football. So that was a fair enough free kick to give away for Chad Corns. He's been hard-nosed against Fisher this afternoon. Sam Fisher, the champion of St Kilda. Short one, ill-directed. Thomas was held. Montagna was worried about the safety of the man who was tracking it back. It comes to Hitchcock. Can he kick another goal? Yes, he can. He's got 2. The sharpshooter.
I've seen many turnovers from St Kilda coming out of the back line like we saw then.
Well, Dennis made a good point. I mean, the Chad Corns free kick sort of gave them half a chance to put some pressure on them, didn't it?
Fisher can't have enjoyed this afternoon's game.
No.
I don't think Dean Lathey looks like he's enjoyed it much either, but getting out there and playing as a defender and being tagged the way he has.
Seems little of this, haven't it, Tim?
Yeah, no, that's a poor kick. I mean, that was a free kick, and then, I mean, so few times or on so few occasions this afternoon we've actually seen Port Adelaide where they've been in a scoring position after a turnover.
So Hitchcock with a couple of last quarter goals started as the sub. Polo belts the ball forward. Hartlett has clearly been Port Adelaide's best player. Even the ball works for him. And then he runs too far. I think that bounce upset him.
Please, mate. Thanks.
He came back and then he got disorientated. It's only his 28th match. He's going to be a big player, isn't he, you think? So Schneider. But did you had career high on this ground this year against the Crows. Graham to load up with a high ball. Dempster went for the mark with the Hartlett. Now Revolt. Can Nick kick 5? That's a behind.
Touched off the boot too. Gee, he went aggressively in the air then, Dempster, didn't he?
Yep.
56 points. Kane Corns got it initially, and they work it out. Banner finds Chad Corns. Wheels around. Out to Gray. Gray, a very competitive man, but needs more support. Socket off the ground by Schultz. Inside the forward 50. Going to ground O'Shea. Showing a lot of courage with Schultz. But he's won the free kick.
Schultz is 40. Thank you.
That's terrific to see. Down by 56 points, and he threw himself in at that football. I know he's a professional footballer. He's paid to do that. But even so, sometimes the temptation is not to. Schultz just setting it up to about 15 metres out from goal. Too easy. Sam Fisher over the top. Just thumps it out of bounds.
Well, none of the Port Adelaide forwards have had a chance this afternoon. They haven't moved the ball quickly enough from one end of the ground to the other. They've had, what have they had, 28 inside 50s now. So Nick Revolt just taking a well-earned rest.
It's kick 4, Revolt. He's done well. He's been the key forward in the match. Certainly the key big forward. Gamble's kicked 4 and Milne's kicked a couple. They've got West Coast next Saturday night, St Kilda. That's a fascinating match. The sort of match that is going to really tell us where they're at, isn't it? More than today has. So Hartlett to take the mark. Now, his career high is 29, Hartlett. What's he got to? He must be close. He's up. In fact, he's got to 30 for the first time in his career. As Port bang it forward again. And Lobe there trying to rove it was Thomas. Corns really hard again and gets the handball out to Banner. And then Banner hooking back too far. Goddard. Well done. Good mark.
It's a good point about them playing West Coast next weekend because they haven't been tested at all. Port Adelaide has not put them under nearly enough pressure. I mean, they've really been able to dictate this game and play it on their terms, St Kilda. It won't be the case if West Coast bring the pressure game that we saw on Friday night.
Goddard out of the back pocket then finds Stephen. 47 plays 103. Still 7 minutes to go in this one. And Stephen, sometimes you find a player and you get the feeling the Saints have done that. He's been terrific in the last 5 or 6 weeks. Del Santo had a wonderful afternoon. To Graham, back to Del Santo, left it behind. Graham got a boot to it inside the 50. Well played by Jacobs, came to meet the football. Now it's Gray. Gray gives a hand pass across to Boak, up to 21 possessions. O'Shea was run down from behind, but not before he got it across to Hitchcock. Hitchcock to Thomas. This is a good combination. Banner's in trouble. Back to Thomas. Didn't need the fumble, but he gets the free kick.
Quick. Thanks, mate. Thanks, quick.
Thomas gets the free. And Corns quickly in to make a statement.
Chad, really? Don't bother. Don't bother. Go away. Go away. Let it go.
Well,
go
sometimes
away. Dino. Go away. Now. Go away. Walk, Dean. Walk away.
Soon some of those players are keen to do their whole match salary today.
Okay,
Yeah.
up. Blow your whistle, Jeff. Start it. Yeah, thanks.
Chet might have to play next year. Pay the fine.
Back to AFL.
Umpire Stephen McBurney settling it down too, giving some good advice there as the ball comes across. I think that's Broadbent, is it? Or was it Pierce? It was Pierce in the distance who set it down towards full forward. Out it comes again. Gray put the body in well, so Port not going away. They just lack the firepower, but they're trying hard. Bad enough when you fumble, but as a result of the fumble, you cop that. Either way, he was probably going to get hit. Armitage gave away the free kick.
So Lobie and McAvoy, and then Jones sweeps the handball. Pearce gets the better of Dempster for one of the few times today. Salter as a throw. So Gamble, is that a good day, Gamble? Had quite a few seasons at Geelong, just never quite made it. Looked like he would. And now is holding his place in the St Kilda team. That's a good kick and a really good mark from
grab the jump up.
From Montagna. You heard the umpire.
Revolt and Tringo off the ball. So I think he's going to reverse this.
Yeah, where the ball is, mate.
Hey, the ball will be here for Port Adelaide. Free kick from here. Reverse against Nick Revolt.
Well, he might have hit you, but you picked him up and you grabbed him from behind, mate. So I have to play a free kick. I'll say, yeah, mate, you got the mid-zone. Play on.
You got it, Jeff.
Yeah, mate.
I didn't see it, Tim. What happened?
Well, I only saw the second part of it, which was the revolt against Tringove, and he grabbed him near the throat.
Hands in the back, so Logan's free kick. So do you think the decision was the right one?
It was the right one, under the circumstances, what we've seen played this afternoon.
It was interesting to see how the sequence works, wasn't it? I mean, the ball was on the wing, and then eventually Port, although they got the second kick, only gained about 15 metres. So that's fair enough.
I think what happened was Revolt went to make a lead and Tringove hit him, and then Revolt retaliated.
Ebert deep into attack, going back. The mark is taken by McAvoy. Been very much a business-like
50 metres
performance.
for abuse against Jay Schultz. 50 metres.
It's been ill-tempered, hasn't it?
Ill-disciplined as well.
Take your 50.
There you go. We apologise to those who lip read at home. Clock continues to run down. Peake continues to run. Takes a hand pass, goes down towards half forward. Well, there's 3-on-1 out there. It needs to go out for Port, and it does, so that's not a bad result. I was saying before, just a business-like performance from St Kilda this afternoon. I don't think we'll see too much in the way of celebration. They'll win it, pack their bags and go home. I'm reminded of the golfer Thomas Levay, who was celebrating his win in the French Open golf. Broke his leg by jumping in the water hazard, and will miss the British Open and several other tournaments. I doubt anyone will get injured in the celebrations the Saints put on this afternoon. Gamble gets it from Gwilt.
Just overcooked the kick a bit to Revolt. Tringove down low. Was that deliberate? No, boundary throw-in. So, Tim, you talked about West Coast next week for the Saints. They've got a pretty good draw, I think.
Well, when you look at those games, that is the toughest game. The game they'll play next weekend against the Eagles is the toughest of those 4 games.
Crows and the Suns and the Dockers, but the Dockers, they've already beaten them all in Perth this year. So,
and they'll play them in Melbourne, so that's going to be an advantage to them.
Wouldn't be surprised if we won 3 of the next 4, would you?
No, not at all. And like 16 goals, even though it's been against a poor Port Adelaide side, is something that they only break the 100 3 times this year. They've broken the 100.
That's the 3rd time. So 102 and 106, I think. I think 106 their biggest score. So they're right on that now. As Gray's kick away. Well, they've won 5 of their last 7 now, and if they could win 3 of the next 4, there's a little bit of momentum. Jones belting the ball forward, and Logan getting underneath it.
Might go down to Richo too, who's watching Tringove come off the ground. Looks like he's holding his shoulder there, Richo.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. He's holding his arm, shoulder. It doesn't look in too bad a way, but when you hold it like that, he's definitely copped at least a bit of a stinger there. Could even be his wrist, maybe they're looking at.
I think he has gone to the wrist, but now down to the rooms. Well, the forearm. Well, that's bad news. He's a very talented youngster.
Oh no, there's a massive lump on his wrist. I reckon he's broken that. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Straight up, please, mate.
No place for the faint-hearted down on the boundary there. Richo.
No, well, gee, I didn't think he looked in too much pain, but that certainly looked pretty painful, didn't it?
He's got a high threshold. That's what that tells us.
Certainly has. He's a tough guy.
Unlike my good self. Oh, well, and you, Richo. You're a tough guy.
So this looks like it might have been it. Here and Revolt going for the ball. Bang. And treads on his... Did Revolt actually tread?
Yeah, it looks like he trod on his
right arm there. Yeah. Gee.
It might be better news that he trod on it. Who knows? Anyway, Armitage.
To Goddard, and then Goddard out wide. Just slipping there was McAvoy. Dempster had a little bit more time than that, but belted forward to Gamble. Well, one thing about Tringove, he's going to be in the news if he's playing or not, because he's been back page and lead story in the sports news as whether he'll play for the Power or not next year. Managed by the same person who managed Travis Boak, who made a late call last year with the signature to stay on. So much speculation surrounding him, and if he happened to be out for the rest of the season, that would be an eerie sort of feeling, wouldn't it, when a bloke not playing, but hopefully that's not the case.
It's a shame they haven't been able to get the ball inside their 50 or even in their forward half more often than Port Adelaide, because Schultz has actually looked reasonably sharp.
Yeah, he's looked a good chance one-on-one against anyone, hasn't he, today, Tim? So Armitage getting it back after they stripped Cassisi of the ball. Armitage running a fair way and then hooking back Port kick. He was on the wrong side for him, and Salter takes the mark. So Port go back to Darwin this week. Well, they've won a game there this year against the Tigers. Here's Logan. And that's a very poor kick to Goddard. Just with Matthew Primus too, I mean, it's far too early to even think about his legacy as a coach or whether he is a good coach, but gee, at the moment it's pretty hard to work out if he is or not with this team, isn't it?
Impossible. Well done by Lynch there. Into that ball hardest against a tough hombre in Logan, but the kick inside the 50, not effective. Hartlett comes out wide. Logan takes the mark.
On that point, though, this time last year, we were all talking about John Worsfold and the fact that he might have been playing out his last year at the West Coast Eagles. You get your talent back into the side, and it makes an enormous difference. And I don't think any of the top sides would want to trade too much of their talent for the Port Adelaide talent.
No. Schultz just pops it over the top. Good hard running by Broadbent.
Dennis, what about that kick from Hartlett? I mean, it was lace out to Schultz about 55 metres.
Come to expect that, haven't we? He's been very good. We've sung his praises constantly this afternoon. He stands out like a beacon in terms of his skill level in this team. But they're almost devoid of stars. Broadbent. The breeze coming across him. That's an educated kick. That is a beautiful kick. Terrific.
They're really consolation goals, though, aren't they? I mean, the game's all over. It's opened up. St Kilda have just eased the pressure a little bit. There's gaps opening up that weren't there for the first 3 quarters of football, and they're taking advantage of them.
It's a tiring ground, Amy, Tim. I mean, you've played on a lot more than I have, but it is a tiring ground. The grass is a bit longer sometimes, and they're tired. They're tired.
Well, and we know their last quarters have been ordinary too.
So not far away from chatting to Nick. Have a look at those 3 guys.
You just wonder whether or not Ross Lyon's already starting to think about next weekend. 3
of their best 6, you'd think, today, wouldn't you?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Goddard, Revolt and Stephen. So Port, 4 goals in the final term. That's at least one little tick for them, because their last quarters have been a massive embarrassment for them really this year. They've tried. They're just outgunned at the moment.
Boys.
They've got a long way to go.
Cal.
Got to hit rock bottom sometimes, don't you? And you feel like that's where they are. But you just got to stick. Find the blokes that can play. Graham's quick kick forward. Well done by Jacobs at the back, and also Lynch. There's a bit of guts and determination from a couple of players there. Here's Banner going backwards to Logan, and Logan's kick to Pearce, and that's not so good. Gee, just quickly on Pearce, rising star 5 or 6 years ago. At the moment, not sure whether he's, you know, going to be a very good player, or probably not going to be a very good player. I mean, he's at the stage of his career where he's not even a regular. I mean, he is absolutely paddling, isn't he?
Well, you can tag him out of the game. That's his problem. And, you know, until he can get some real balance back in his game between contested and uncontested football, he will be easy to stop.
But he looked elite, didn't he, when he started? But he's not elite.
Well, Sando gave it to Graham in the early build-up. Now it's with Gamble.
And the other thing he needs, he needs more talent around him. And the more talent they have, the less pressure goes on him, the less focus goes on him as a player too. And he might get a little bit more freedom than what he's being afforded at the moment.
Dying seconds of this one. 50 points the margin. And probably, if anything, that flatters Port. Milne trying to make it a few more. Gets the bounce. Well done. That's his 3rd goal this afternoon. As always, very dangerous down there. Has drifted out of the game in this second half, but it's been pretty pedestrian, the build-up from both teams after certainly midway through that 3rd quarter.
Well, they've had 8 goal kickers this afternoon, St Kilda, and their forwards have done what you'd expect them to do. I mean, Gamble's kicked 4 of them, Milne's got 3, and Revolt's got 4. So Schneider's had the 1 goal. And he's just one of those players that you need to control, you know, for the full 120 minutes of the game, because you just give him a little bit of breathing space and he can kick those sorts of goals.
So it's the Saints' highest score for the year, 106 against Melbourne, and only Geelong have scored less against them this year. And that was actually in round 1 when the Cats won 48-47. So it's been a good day. Their midfielders have kicked goals, their big guys have kicked fouls, they've won well. It was set up before the ball was bounced, to be honest, wasn't it? With that free kick to Nick Revolt, who we'll be chatting to in just a moment. An interview we've done with Nick. Port season gets a little bit worse, and the Saints, well, 5 out of 7.
Oh, when the Saints go marching in, oh, when the Saints go marching in, oh, how I want to be with St Kilda, when the Saints go marching in.
Nick D'Alessandro with Richo, 36 disposals, Richo 15 contested, a couple of goals.
Yeah, great game from yourself, Nick, but as a team, you're just really starting to build a little bit of momentum now.
Yeah, definitely, Richo. We're a little bit behind the 8 ball, but when we play good footy, we're competitive with most sides, and I felt our pressure today, particularly interstate. We needed to start off really well and got off to a really good start, so really set us up for the rest of the day.
It's your structures, your team defence and that forward press starting to really work into gear again.
Yeah, probably been a little bit inconsistent. The last month's been a lot better, and it's good that we're getting some recognition for it, and hopefully we can carry it out for the rest of the year, because we need to.
You get a good look at it next week. You've got the Eagles, they're in great form.
Yeah, they're playing some pretty good footy, which is going to be a good challenge for us. But I think we've got a 6-day break and we'll come ready to go.
All right, thanks, mate.
Thanks, Richo. Cheers, mate.
Having a good season, isn't he? We'll have all the latest from Collingwood North Melbourne shortly, including the press conferences. Collingwood establishing a record today. But Nick Revolt, let's hear from the St Kilda captain.